You thought that song was over. Come on. I said, yeah, I will. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just making sure that we are live and direct right now on Swissbeatbox, and I can see that my beautiful friend is on there with me. Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 36, first episode of 2021. How are you guys doing?
Are you asking me or them?
I'm asking everybody. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2021. This is Beyond the Beats, the official Swissbeatbox podcast being live streamed right now on Swissbeatbox YouTube channel. It's your boy Scott Jackson. I hope you guys had a wonderful New Year's Eve, enjoyed some space, socially distanced things, if whatever your country has ruling-wise. I hope you guys adhered to it and everything's fine with you. I hope you guys are going to have a 2021 that is, again, most importantly, safe, productive. Get out there and make some money. Call your friends and family, tell them you love them, full of love and prosperity. So let's get into it. 2021. People are logging on. Ladies and gentlemen, today, once again, all the way to episode 36. We started this last year. We're in episode 36. And today I get to go and talk to my man right here, live and direct. We have Aaron Banner, a.k.a. repping for Dark Minds with his boy Artifact. Repping for Wednesday. Representing for Flame Master Records.
Oh, God, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, part of the crew, Sinjo Belly.
Yo.
Give it up for Mr. A.K.A. the legend himself. Headed audio right there. Give it up for Sinjo, gentlemen. Come on, ladies. Come on, everybody. It's Sinjo. What up, buddy?
Oh, thanks for that lovely intro, mate. It's an honor. Actually, I just realized it the other day that this is the first podcast of 2021. What a way to start.
That's right. Start off with a bang.
Damn.
I'm seeing people are right in here. People are already from all around the world already watching. Saying impressive. Beatboxing is fun. I like this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Sinjo, please put them in the chat. My homie Hydefil, who's running the stream, big shout out to Hydefil as well. We'll be going through to find all of the best questions, and we'll be going into that afterwards. But 2021, start off with a bang with the main man right here, Sinjo. If you guys want to go and find out what's happening beyond the beats, let's get into it.
Yes, mate.
Let's get into it. I don't like wasting time. We're going to jump into it.
It's an honor to finally be here. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that little exit.
Oh, man.
How you been?
I'm good, yo. I'm. How are you?
Yeah, you just caught me in the middle of everything. We've just come out of judging the kickback wildcards. Literally finalized that an hour before this call, and it's just been so insane. Like, the level of the wildcards is ridiculous. It makes me never want to judge again, put it that way. It was so hard. Yeah, I did not expect that. And in the middle of Christmas and New Year's and so many things going on. So you just caught me in the middle of really hectic times. So it's kind of a perfect way to start off the year with this podcast.
Yeah, leave that stuff in 2020, come out with 2021 strong. How many entries did you have for the kickback battle?
I think about 280. Yeah, it's like GBB size of terms of amount of entries, and but the level, like, there's usually a very clear, distinct difference between people. Can you hear me now?
I can still hear you, brother. Yeah.
My loopback software is telling me that I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna have to. We've got technical problems right at the start with the head of sound.
Head of audio engineering, making sure we come out. We're having mad static coming through.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so give me 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. It is just...
Maybe you can mute yourself for a second?
Mm-hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it would not be starting with the head of audio engineer without this happening right off the bat. So I'm just going to go and sit while he figures that out. I'll look at the live chat right now and see who's doing what. We have somebody from Richmond, Nick Kazas, Boots and Cats and Boots and Cats and Boots and Cats. That is correct. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again. People from Virginia are here. People are saying mad static. Yes, that's correct.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Head of sound coming back now. Getting it live and direct. Jack Nasty says head of sound. He's got it.
I knew this was going to happen. Let me just check to make sure that the sound's not too loud.
Oh, that sounds good to me.
Sounds good?
That sounds good to me.
All right, great.
All right.
Sorry about that. So just a bit of background. I've just moved into a new apartment, and I'm not in my studio right now, and all my gear's there. So I've kind of jerry-rigged up a temporary setup for this podcast. Came a little bit unprepared. Sorry about that. Classic. But hey, it's considering 2020, it's kind of fitting.
well, I think that this guy named Bowser's Reaction Pit just donated $5 because he was half it already. So, I mean, you got to be doing something right here.
That's good news. Thanks, Bowser.
So let's try this again. All right, let's start.
Shout out to Bowser.
Yeah. You said you had about 280 entrances, and it's hard to go and judge because at the end of it, they're saying that level was so close. And from the ones I've seen, it's crazy. Like some of the big name players, I was happy to see, Babbly come back and do his one. That was dope. Obviously, I'm a fan of all the Canadian boys that put them in there. And
Canadians killed it this year.
Yeah, Canadians have been smashing it. They smashed 2 in a row, won the Mad Meal battles. Vino and Den both won their last Mad Meal battles 2 in a row. So big ups to Canada. And I saw Elise's nasty as usual. But yeah, I cannot wait to go and see who actually makes it through. So can you kind of explain to the people, if they're tuning in right now, how many people are moving forward in this battle, and what is the procedure going forward into the next round? If you could just break that down for them, because I'm interested too.
For those who don't know, it's for the Kickback Battle 2021, which is this new concept of doing an online battle with controlled audio. Well, I'll get into that in a bit. For this one, for the wildcards, we have 8. So 8 people go through, but we've made a top 30. Each judge has made the top 30 list, and from that we get a final top 30. And we're going to post those as well at some point, so you'll know if you did enter and you didn't get through to the top 8, you'll still find out if you got into the top 30. As I said, I've never seen such close scores before. It was so difficult to judge. I think I listened to, in the end, my top 50, each video at least 6 or 7 times. My top 30, I've listened to probably close to 10 times each video. Like listen to again and again, because you're just going back and forth and comparing them with each other. The whole system for this ranking is that rather than, one of the problems with when you're judging, we have different judges judging a wildcard competition, and you use a points-based system. People's points system can vary quite a lot, and that can affect the overall ranking quite significantly. So say someone who likes to give high scores gives 90 and 85s, a lot of those, that can then outweigh other people's scores who only give 70, even though they rank. So what we do is, rather than doing a points-based system, we rank them in a top 30. And that way you get even numbers across the board, and it's a much fairer way of getting a final list. So you're basically, you're just going back and forth and comparing, okay, my first one, is that better than my second one? Oh, that one's like, okay, then you move that up there, and then you go to the next one. You're just comparing back and forth, like a battle, basically. But that's the same as the concept of the kickback battle. It's ridiculous. Please speak English. Sorry.
I think we're doing okay.
Speak Australian, right? Yeah, so I mean, it's never an easy job to judge, but usually there is quite a difference between the level of people. This year, I mean, there could have probably been 50 people in the battle. The level, the quality of it it's ridiculous.
And when we get that top 8, then they'll send in their next round with equipment that SBX is sending them, so it'll all be level across the board, correct?
So we announce on Tuesday the final 8. Those guys will then get sent a studio kit, so an interface, cables, and a microphone. That way that they have all the exact same setup. I'm then going to actually do some one-on-one tutorials with each of the artists to set up the sound for them the best they can. There are some things we can't control, like the room environment, but at least with the same exact interface and microphone, you're going to get the same audio across the board. They then send in their rounds. So let's say we start off with the first battle. We don't know who's battling who yet, but when we do, it'll be Beatboxer A versus Beatboxer B. Beatboxer A sends in their first round. I master it. So I apply my processing that I usually do for the YouTube videos we do for Swissbeatbox. then upload it. Then the next beatboxer B gets to watch that video. He gets 24 hours to record his answer to that one, sends in the audio, same thing. I master it and we upload it, and it just goes back and forth like that for the entire battle. It means it takes a bit longer, but it means that there's consistent
quality.
Audio. Yeah, exactly. One of the
Absolutely.
hardest things with these, like as we found in 2020, we can't go to live battles. Usually I'm there to do the live sound so I can make sure it's fair for everyone. But with these online setups, everyone's got a different setup at home. And it's so hard to judge with different audio quality. It's like even with the wildcards, it was so difficult. Like some guys using their phones. I have a lot to talk about with that. We'll get into that later if we can, if we have time for it. But I really want to talk about recording setups at home, because people were doing really weird things with their EQing or processing that actually hurt themselves in the long run. But we'll get into that later. But yeah, so basically that's how the battle will run. It goes back and forth like that. And then it's the same format as any normal battle. So you have round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, and then the quarterfinals, semifinal, finals. And it's just going to keep rolling through like that.
Well, that's something I'm definitely looking forward to, and I know that a lot of people are looking forward to. Again, people stuck at home across the world with not a lot to do necessarily. It's nice to go and actually see that SBX has jumped up and created a battle where it's going to be like a thorough process. You're going to have good quality sound, and by the end of it, you're going to have somebody becoming a champion. I'm going to go and start off with like what I usually do when we start off is I try to find a quote from people that I like. And this is a bit of a longer one, but 2014, after you battled Soul Rock at Don't Let the Label Label You, you had an interview I found. And this interview, you said, it was very interesting because I feel like you predicted this 2014 as a newbie into the scene, because you said this is your 5th battle ever that you were in. It was at this thing, right, in Germany. So you say the whole experience of beatbox battling coming from someone who hasn't had much experience in the area. It's interesting because it forces you to compact as much amount of information as you can in a short amount of time as possible when you're on stage in front of people. Whereas in the future, it is just like rap, where battling wasn't the pinnacle of hip hop or rap. Music is what really is the pinnacle. And that's where the same will eventually happen with beatboxing, develop into a musical art form rather than a pure battle art form. I mean, the battling is a big part of it, but the next step is really to make it a musical art form. Now that's 2014 Sinjo, a young gentleman who just came into Berlin, found some friends like Babbly to go and start beatboxing with other people, because you said that you were beatboxing beforehand, but that outlook on it when first coming into it and seeing it and understanding that it's an actual musical art form and it needs to be pushed in that direction more so, you can see people have succeeded with that. And most recently, big shout outs to Spider Horse releasing their album. Make sure you guys go and cop that. Chris Jean, we hearing you out there. But across the board, people are starting to put it out more releases and starting to become more of the artists that they are going to be eventually developing to, rather than just battling. And there's nothing wrong with someone that decides just to be a battler, but that idea of expressing yourself through music and allowing yourself more than this 1 minute 30 or 2 minutes or whatever round times there is, it's very interesting to see how the scene is growing. And again, I just thought that was interesting that 2014, one of your first battles that you were in, you already had the mindset of that, you know?
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with my background. Because I started beatboxing in 99. So I wasn't a newbie into beatboxing at that point. I'd already been beatboxing for 14, 15 years at that point. What I was a newbie in was the battling scene, because it just kind of, it was so intense for me. I come from a musical background. So I started drumming when I was 6 and then playing guitar a little bit as a teenager. But what got me into it was producing electronic music. That's how I kind of came to this whole job. I studied audio engineering to make drum and bass, and then ended up by accident here, which is amazing. I can't believe that this has happened. But so when I came into the battle scene and I saw that at the beginning, it struck me straight away how people were so focused, and it still happens now. It's shifting a lot though, but where people were so focused on trying to be better than someone else with music, which is such a weird concept in the musical world of like, it's like the best example is what's the best band in the world? You can't really say that. It's so subjective, you know? And that's the same difficult thing with these wildcards. It's the same reference point of like, once you get to a certain level, it's really about personal taste rather than who's better. And I really like the way that battling has kind of evolved, especially with GBB. Like you see people like Codfish winning or Spider Horse. They're such musical artists, and it showcases more what can be possible. It's like a tool. It's an instrument, and to define it as a sport, it's a part of it. And I love the energy in the scene, what happens in the scene with the beatbox battles, because it brings people together and evolves the art form so incredibly. My point there with that quote was that I'd just been kind of thrown in this battling scene, and everyone was so focused on this like crazy techniques and all the stuff that to my ears wasn't enjoyable, because it wasn't musical. It was more about cramming as much stuff in as you can to say, look what I can do. And I've always had that kind of mentality with beatboxing as more of a tool to create music, and it's an incredible tool. It's the most versatile, like it's so amazing what you can do with it. It's just the focus was for so long on this battling environment, and I like how it's shifting now as well. Quick shout out to Spiderhorse. I was lucky enough to be a part of their private album viewing on the 30th. There was like a group of 50 of us that they invited. I felt so honored to be a part of that group, where they just showed it to us. I was so blown away. Their album is incredible. So I, like people like them, they're pushing the art form in the right direction. But that's a personal opinion, like, again, it's just down to what you want to do with it. It's the freedom. That's the amazing freedom of beatboxing,
I fully agree with you, man. And it's nice to go and see again people that are pushing stuff that you can bump in a car and stuff that you can go and bump in your headphones when walking around, because there's nothing wrong with sitting there and watching battles or having battles downloaded and listening to it. But it's nice to go and hear what people are thinking, how to go and take beatboxing and apply it into a musical and project, like full projects too, not just one-off little projects. Like it's fine to do singles or whatever you want to call that, because again, it's just the way that you want to do it. But I love hearing a full length project and being like, whoa, they're taking on this long journey essentially through an album, which is coming back again. And something I love to hear is more people thinking about it as a full length production piece, not just the one-off. Here's one piece that we did, and here's another one that's totally, not connected or something. I don't know. It's nice to me to hear. So
yeah, it links back again to like when I started beatboxing the first 8 years, I didn't think you could do anything with it. For me, it was I had ADHD like a lot of beatboxers, and as a kid, I was an only child, and I traveled a lot as a kid, so I was often alone, and beatboxing was an outlet for me of just like I discovered it by listening to the radio, and I heard Razel on the radio. I had no visual input. It was all audio. I heard him, and I was a drummer, so I was like, okay, he's drumming and singing at the same time. It just blew me away. So as I was 11, and every day I was just like, I could kind of figure out what he was doing, and I just practiced that every day. And for the first 8 years, it was just an outlet for energy. And I never, ever have dreamed that you could do something really musical with it, because for me, it was really a gimmick, even to myself. I was like, this is silly. You can't make good music out of this. Until I saw Beardy Man. And he did that, the Kitchen Diaries, 2007. Kitchen Diaries from Beardy Man. That changed everything for me. When he did the bass line, I was like, it's over now. Now I realize, okay, you can do something with this. That was the first time I ever had an inkling that beatboxing could be music. Before that, for me, even, it was just a gimmick. And now it's evolved into this incredible thing,
And that's crazy that you not only did it's I love this about our scene. And if you push hard enough and work hard enough, now you've done mixing and mastering live for both Razel and Beardy Man.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I still can't believe that. The first time I did live sound for Razel, I was shitting myself. Sorry to swear, but oh my God. And then we had technical problems because we moved venues, and the guys who were changing the speakers across took ages. So Razel was getting pissed off. I had nothing to do with that, but I'm his contact person. So yes. I had to take responsibility. Oh man, it was a night. I was so scared. It wasn't until the third time I did sound with him when he had trusted me. Before then, he was very much like, who the hell is this guy screwing up the sound the first da-da-da-da. And then the third time he saw me at one of our events and I was doing, he's like, it's you, cool, I trust you. I'm like, oh, thank God, I've redeemed myself.
Oh, man, 11-year-old you thinking into the future, being like, there's no way I'm ever going to meet this guy, let alone mixing the sound.
No way. The same with Beardy Man. We became friends because he used to come to Berlin every year, and like 2014 I went to his event, and I've been DJing now for like 15 years, and I know how to get backstage in places.
You could figure it out even if I know the venue as well. So I just kind of walked in backstage knowing that he was there and just pretended I belonged. And then we just started chatting and we became good friends. And then every year he came to Berlin, we used to hang out. And he never really, the first time I met him, I told him about beatboxing stuff. It's like, if we're going to hang out tonight, one rule, no beatboxing. I'm like, fair enough, yes. Fair enough. I get that. And then like 4 or 5 years later, I was doing the sound for the UK champs. And they went to introduce, Beardy Man was doing a showcase there. So they went to introduce Beardy Man to me. And he comes up to shake my hand. He's like, wait a second, I know you. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, holy shit, what are you doing? I was like, I told you I work in beatbox, mate. He did not make the connection. So the first time it sounded that we'd already met outside of the working environment, which was really funny.
That's awesome.
Sorry for the little tangent there, but that's one of my favorite.
Never be sorry. That's what this is about, man. It's about the backstories and about how you got involved with it. And like, I see that, again, you said you were born in Australia and then you moved to New Zealand. You were growing up there. You head over to Australia again, and then you end up graduating from SAE Institute with a Bachelor of Audio. And then you first ever other beatboxer you said you met, because you did a Grand Beatbox Battle, 7 to Smoke. You did an elimination, and at that 7 to Smoke, you said one of the first real introductions to other beatboxers was meeting Babbly at the Splash Festival and meeting those guys at the Splash Festival. Now, can you kind of explain how a kid from Australia, New Zealand, who has spent a lot of time by themselves practicing, not hearing other beatboxers live and direct, and having someone to train with, jumping into seeing people, 2013 Babbly was and still is a monster, but 2013 he was on like some monster stuff. So to get that opportunity to work with somebody right off the bat like that.
I have to rewind a little bit because that's not the first time I saw it. If it had been, I would have been such a crazy experience on another level. It was, but I'd been going to this open mic while I was at uni. And I don't know if many people know this guy, Isosceles. He's the 2013 Australian beatbox champion. We met at an open mic. I used to go to this like student night open mic thing. If you top 5 people who do the open mic get $25, you buy a round of beer for your friends and stuff.
Yeah.
We used to go there every Wednesday, and I used to beatbox every Wednesday just for fun because I would win it every time because no one else had ever seen that before. Now, to be fair, I was not very good, and I had no idea about beatbox mic technique because I'm a trained audio engineer. So one of the things you are taught not to do is to cut the mic. So I used to hold a mic like a singer would, right? And I'd go up and do that, and I'd still get good results. I'd usually win the $25 and buy a round of beers. One night, I'm standing there with my friends chatting, and suddenly my mate grabs me and turns me like, "Dude, it's you!" And I turn over, and there's Jake Kemp is his name. A great beatboxer, awesome dude. He's on stage tearing it up, and it just blew my mind. Like, what the fuck? And I went up on stage after him, and I sounded so weak. And after I came off, I went to him like, "Dude, why are you so much more powerful?" He's like, "Dude, hold the mic like this." And I was like, oh shit. So that was my first experience with a beatboxer. So when I saw Babbly, I'd kind of already had that feeling. The difference is with Babbly, I'd watched him on videos so much. And I'm going to be honest here. I love the dude. He's like a brother. But I was like, why is this guy so hyped up? He's not that awesome. Because I'd never heard him live. And this is one of the things I'll still to this day say to people, like, videos will never, no matter how much mastering I put into it or how much work goes into it, you cannot compare a video on your home speakers to a live event. And I learned that the hard way because I judged this guy. Before I even saw him beatbox, I arrived early at the festival. He was the only other guy there. We got introduced. We became really good mates overnight. And then I saw him beatbox the next day. And he told me afterwards, he's like, dude, I remember turning around and seeing you there, and you were like in the corner. I don't remember that. I just remember being blown away. But I heard his kick. As soon as I heard his kick on the system, I was just like, oh my God, what is wrong? I was so wrong about everything I ever thought about beatboxing, you know? So yeah, Babbly definitely was a huge step up for me. It changed everything. And then I learned everything. I thought I was, to be honest, I thought I was a really good beatboxer for a long time. I thought it was me, Razel, and Beardy Man. That's it. I thought we were the 3 in the world that beatbox. I didn't know there was anyone else out there. I didn't know about YouTube. I didn't know any of that stuff. So coming over, that was a real humbling experience for me, for sure. I went from thinking like I'm one of the best in the world to like I ain't shit.
Oh man, but again though, you you did have some battles, and for people that like are new to the scene and just see you as an audio engineer and the guy behind all the sound, you also put in work and have been featured as a beatboxer on SBX, and you've gone one of the first battles I saw you in that I could find either in the Splash Battle, because there's no videos of that I could really try to find. But the one I found was you versus Phil Harmony in the Braunschweiger battle.
Yeah,
I believe it was called.
Yeah.
And Phil went on to go and take the W the whole time.
Yeah.
But how is it for you to go in again? You said you had roots in your family had some German roots, even though you were born and raised Australia, New Zealand, half and half type thing, or whatever that exact process was. But moving to Germany and having this beatbox thing, and was it good to go and have that as an introduction to people to go and make friends, kind of jumping into Berlin? I don't know exactly. You can tell the people, but like just that idea of going to a kind of a new place, and all of a sudden you have something to go and be like, beatbox. Okay, there's some people that beatbox, and immediately be able to go and start battling and trying it out.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but so I moved schools 20 times before I was 14. So regardless of moving, of being in a new place, I learned from a really young age how to adapt into a new environment. It's just been a part of my repertoire. I had to do it to survive as an only child, moving around a lot. I just learned early on really quickly how to make friends, basically. The beautiful thing about the beatbox community is that it's the first time I actually found a home. Before that, it's always like I'm adapting to different environments where I don't necessarily always fit in. I was always an alien. And the beatbox community was the first time ever I was like, I get goosebumps still thinking about it. Like it was just like, oh my God, I'm with my people. It's such an incredible feeling. And you know that anyone who's been to GBB or any of those big international battles, if it's your first international battle, it's like, oh my God, it's an incredible feeling, because we're all aliens, you know? And then it's like going back to the home planet or something. But yeah, so my mum is German. She left Germany when she was 17. So the only contact I had with my German family was every Christmas we'd go and visit, but I can speak German. So it wasn't that alien to me to come here. And I went to school in Berlin for a year when I was a kid. I always wanted to come back here. And so when I did make the decision after I graduated, to come to Germany, I stayed with my family for a bit. And then I got invited to the Splash Battle, and then met Barbely, and then it knocked on to meeting Robeat and all those guys and doing the Braunschweiger Battle. And it felt so natural to me. I loved it. I didn't necessarily like the battling thing, because I used to do DJ battles, and it's the same thing for me. It's that preparation, the pressure, it takes away the fun of it for me. That's just me personally. I love the environment of going there and hanging out with everyone, but the pressure of doing your best on the spot and preparing a routine, it's just not my style. But I really loved doing the battles. So when I got there was no real learning curve. I was just at home straight away. It was really weird. Yeah.
And again though, I want to go and think about, so from 2013 Splash Battle, 2014 you do the German champs as well. You try out for the German champs for the German Beatbox Battle Tour, the semifinal against MG. In Magdeburg.
Magdeburg, yeah.
I'm gonna butcher all these German names. My apologies.
That's not a problem. That's why I'm here, man. It was the Middle German Championship. So there was 5 rounds. It was North, South, East, West, and Middle. And I was vice champion of the Middle German champs there. That's the furthest title I ever got in terms of battling.
So far.
Yeah, so far. I might do loop one day. I might do loop.
Okay, this is what I was going to ask you about. Okay, so
oh, sorry, I gave a spoiler.
No. I just wanted to go and say that you again. So you start off, you jump in right away. You meet Babbly. The first video that I ever found was you and him doing some cool beans, and you're doing a freestyle battle.
Yeah, man, we had so much fun.
And that was again dope. And then you already by 2014, you how did you link up with? Explain how you started doing the audio behind it, because you were trained in it, you have your degree in it, and what made you decide to go and shift some of your focus, because instead of producing and mainly producing and focusing on DJing the drum and bass and electronic music, what inspired you to go and jump on and help out and then become the sound man that you have for the beatbox scene?
I don't want to put anyone on blast, but basically I'd been watching. In 2012, 13, I started watching YouTube videos of beatboxing for the first time. And in my final project for uni, I actually created an electronic track made purely from beatbox samples. That was my final project. So I kind of had gone through the process of realizing how far you could push it with the sound quality. And I noticed all the videos online was just raw audio. There was nothing was being done to them. And I was like, it could sound so much better. So it was just purely by accident. And then I saw just by accident Bilo, the guy who runs Beatbox Battle TV, he was doing this battle at Splash. And I just sent him this recording I had from uni from a couple months ago. Said, hey, I just moved from Australia 2 weeks before the battle. He messages me and said, hey, we got a spot for you. You want to come down? So that's how I met Barbally. I met Bilo, offered to do some stuff, asked him, like, what do you guys do with the sound? And they just said, just upload it. It's the same what everyone was doing for a long time because it was just the standard. And I just started doing a few sounds for him. Through him, I met Papuni, did the same thing with him, talked with him. We started working. We actually became really good friends first. And then he sent me the audio for 2014 GBB. And he said, do you want to do this one? Give it a go. And I mastered that. And that was the first thing I did for Swissbeatbox. And then I stayed on. And that's how rest is history.
Rest is history. And you can see how it's improved. And I was going to say,
Shout out to Tara Stannon, by the way. I love you too, bro.
Oh, all right.
Sorry,
I like it.
Sorry,
no.
sidetracking.
All good. Always sidetrack. When you do have that project, I was gonna ask you because I've never seen the project that you're talking about from university where it's all beatbox samples. Do you have that project somewhere?
You haven't heard it's on SoundCloud. I must have shown you this. Because for
Maybe.
a long, that was like my one piece of it's the only song I've actually finished. It was like a unit because I mean my own song. I've finished a lot of projects with other people, but that was like my kind of beginning of like, I actually called it Beginning's End because it was for me. You've heard it. I know you've heard it.
Excuse me.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Beginning's End. So for me, it was like the end of my beginning into becoming a professional producer because I just finished graduating and everything, and that was what I called it. And because of that work that I did with that song, that's what led to my whole thing with Swissbeatbox and doing audio.
And is that something that you'd ever make like a video for and put out again, like re-release type thing?
I've thought so much about this. I don't know. I get the feeling it's been too long. Like it's just gotten too stale almost. I don't know. Maybe I've got a lot of projects, ideas in the works right now that maybe we'll talk about. I wanted to start doing a YouTube channel and doing a whole bunch of other stuff myself around producing beatbox music. That particular project was I got to be honest, was a nightmare. It's not practical at all. I took the sounds to the absolute limits that you can. It doesn't sound like beatbox anymore. That was the point of the project. But for me to do music that way, you might as well just produce electronic music without bothering with the beatbox samples. Because I spent 3 or 4 months just creating a sample pack of beatbox sounds from my recordings and then creating the track. And it, like workflow wise, it's a nightmare. So I don't know if I'll make it the same way again. I'll do something similar for sure. I've already got a few ideas in the works, but that particular project was, that was a bit of a headache.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, go check out the SoundCloud. Go and find that from.
It's on if you look Sinjo on SoundCloud, maybe we can post the links in the description of this podcast once we finished it. But if you go to my SoundCloud, Sinjo, you'll see me. It's me with about 50 kilos less in my face and long hair and a microphone with a red background. You'll see it, Sinjo, and then find Beginning's End. If you just search Beginning's End, Sinjo, you'll find the song.
And if you guys do want to see a video for it or something being re-released like that, make sure that you guys go and hit him up, send messages to him, make him go and put it out because I want to see that.
If enough people harass me, I'll think about it.
You guys can always, and also I'm going to do it right now in the middle of the show, not even the middle, somewhere in the beginning. If you guys want to, make sure you guys hit him up, tag him at Sinjo_SBX. Make sure that you get him on the Instagram. Go and follow him. Go and tell him that he needs to go and put this stuff out. I wanted to go and say too, you've been continuing doing the battles. The last battle that I could find was you as a tag team partner in 2017 with D-Lo at Vocal Total, just as the fantasy battle. Trying to get you to a spit take.
That was so much fun. Me and D-Lo really bonded over that trip. Like he just got back from New Zealand, which is, I saw some people commenting before, where is Sinjo actually from? So just to clear up the confusion, because it is very confusing. My mum is German. My dad is Scottish ancestry, but Australian born. I'm born in Australia. I moved to New Zealand when I was 2. So it's a bit of a mix up there. I identify as Kiwi. That's the culture that raised me. I don't really believe in geographical locations dictating who you are because of where you're born. I think culturally what shapes you is who you identify as, you know, and the New Zealand culture is what raised me and I affiliate most with. So if people ask me where I'm from, I just say New Zealand. And now I've completely lost the track of what I was talking about before. What we're saying?
No, you're talking about D'Lo. He just came back from this trip because he had that. I saw this.
I just spent like 3 months or something in New Zealand, and we'd known each other before. But he came to the battle, and he come up to me. He's like, heard my accent. He's like, "Oh, it's so good to hear your accent." Yeah, he just kind of flipped out at reconnecting with the culture. So we really bonded over that. And then at the battle itself, it was the draw. So it's a random name draw of a tag team. Yeah. And it got to the final thing. And then it just Sinjo, D'Lo, and we just looked at each other like, no way. Okay, we're doing drum and bass. And we just went in. Yeah, I'm pretty critical of my own beatbox. I hate everything I've done, to be honest, when it comes to live beatboxing stuff. But it was really fun. I loved it in the moment, at least.
Now, I want to go and ask you too, before we before I get into more questions about audio.
Shout out to Fire Brass. Where is Sinjo? People who know will know.
Ish. Fire. Ish.
Yes, my bro.
I love Fire Brass.
So I'm just. The one thing this whole pandemic has taught me is how much I value the family and my friends in the scene, and it's such a unique thing because most people build their friend circles in their town where they live. And we're kind of cursed and blessed with this thing of like all of our family is spread across the world. And it's really nice when we can travel, but when we can't, it's really depressing.
Yeah, it's been sad, man. I want to go and see you. I want to go and hang out. And actually, I agree with you across the world. But I don't know. We'll see what happens in the world. But Faya, still to this day, my screens, wallpaper forever on my cell phone. And on my cell phone, it's been like this for right there.
Kim.
Goes to Kim. My cell phone has been like that since Le Cup. Not the most recent Le Cup. The Le Cup before. I don't play around. I said it's gonna go like that until we see each other again. So I might have you guys on my phone for a long time, which makes.
If only you'd known.
No, it wouldn't change. I'm committed to this, Esh. All right, so I want to go and ask you, if you had the opportunity for solo beatboxing. Let's just go with solo beatboxing, and we'll go into Loop Station in a second. I just want to talk about strictly Sinjo as the beatboxer, not audio engineer aside and stuff. Do you have any ambitions to go and get into a German, Australian, or New Zealand champ? Is there anything that in the back of your mind you're like, you're still a beatboxer, you're still practicing, progressing? I see, you've gotten circle jams and stuff, and you hold your own. Is there stuff that you ever think to yourself you want to focus on your solo and maybe attempt to go and battle again?
There is a part of my ego that wants to, yes, but my heart doesn't at all, has no interest whatsoever. But yeah, there is a little part of me that would like to maybe be like New Zealand champ, mainly because I say this like it sounds really bad. I say this because I think it's the only place I have the chance of doing that, but that's not true because I've met a lot of the guys there and they're so dope. Like, it's just not my thing. I shy away from it. It just goes against culturally my relationship with music so deeply that I just can't get into it. Looping is different with music, but the beatboxing thing itself, it just doesn't draw me in that way. I might one day, who knows? I'd never say never, but the only thing that would drive me, I think, is an egotistical viewpoint, and that's not who I am really. I'm not a very egotistical person that gets driven from. It doesn't drive me like goals of my ego. It doesn't make me want to complete things. It's usually my heart that I follow. Like if I'm passionate about something, then I'll do it. And I don't have that passion for battling. I have a little bit of an ego, like, yeah, maybe I could be the best in the country, but that's just pure ego. It's not really my heart. It's not my passion. So yeah. I don't think so. Maybe let's not say never, but it's very unlikely.
Do you think that through the time, because again, with your production background, which I'll get into momentarily, but with this going on, and DJing, since so you have the performing, you're used to using technology with your hands and pairing that with bringing the crowd into it through your DJ set and production and having that knowledge, and also being a sound engineer and all these things pointing in this direction of loop station wise? Is that something that you've started doing, and you have an RC 505 you've been practicing with? Is this something that you think about possibly getting and putting your toe into and seeing how the waters are for yourself as a loop station artist?
I definitely want to. It's on the list. This is how it changes with battling. That's something I really want to do, just to kind of see how far I can get. I kind of prove to myself what I can do in that realm. It really depends on the technology. I'm waiting a little bit longer. Also, time-wise, like we're just getting so much more busy. Like to dedicate yourself to creating, you know what it's like when you're sitting down and practicing and training for a battle and preparing everything. It's so much time and energy goes into that, and I just haven't had that time or energy to do it. Being busy with all these other projects, which drive me a lot more than winning a battle might. But I really want to. I think I'm waiting for the technology to get better. I like what people have done with what's available. Everyone's, like in the beatbox scene, have pushed the technology that's currently available to the absolute limit, and it's crazy to see. But as I said, I come from this background of using DAWs, digital audio workstations, to produce, which allows you to basically do anything. And I would love to kind of get into, if there was something that you could use in a battle that would allow you to do it to that level, that's where I'm getting interested. There are a few things out there now. There's some beta products that are being tested. Inky's been doing some stuff on his channels in regards to that. There's a few people using these new technologies. I haven't had the time to test them out myself, but it's something I'm really interested in, and I really want to pursue at some point when I have a bit more time. I know we've had this year to have some time. I theoretically could have. Yeah, I wasn't doing the best this year. This kind of whole lockdown thing didn't. I mean, everyone's had a pretty tough year. I don't want to be that guy to complain about it. But me personally, I kind of went into a bit of a bubble, and yeah, I'm come out of it now. But it was a tough year, so I didn't really have much energy to focus on stuff creatively that I could have done during that time.
Well, it's an opportunity that is not lost, and something that you can go and continue to pursue. Because I'd love to hear what's in your mind. Again, just based off of the energy I see when you DJ, you know, when you've done the after parties at GBB, and I saw the way you crushed it, like the Chinese battle. I saw the video, and like, I don't know, just the energy. I've seen you perform before. I've seen you perform not only as a beatboxer but as a DJ, and that energy I think would carry really strongly into the actual production and performance of Loop Station. I think that's something that you'd be very good at. So I'm excited to go and see you if you ever decide to go and do it. You definitely have some support and fans that would like to see it.
That's awesome. Thanks for saying that, bro. It's definitely a really weird duality that lives inside of me, because as a technician, I've worked a lot. Like I worked on a cruise ship for a while in professional audio in other areas outside of beatboxing, and it's very interesting to see that most technicians don't gel well with the artists. Like they have their own little thing going on, and I sit bang in the middle where I came into this as an artist, and now I'm an engineer, a technician, and I have this weird duality of like, one of my favorite things this year, we went to Florida and we did that was the one battle we actually worked at, and it made me realize how much I miss sitting behind the mixing desk and making beatboxers sound good on stage. Like I felt alive for the first time all year. When I was standing there, when Alem went on stage and we're doing sound check, I was like, oh yes, that feeling, I love it. But at the same time, as you said, you've seen me when I perform on a DJ set. That's another version of me that's like the full unleashed Sinjo, is when I'm behind the decks on stage playing music to people. That's why I got into this business, you know. So
and I want to go and ask you too. Now, for some people who are beatboxers, let's just go and say, people that are watching this right now that are getting into beatboxing, and people that have been professional as a beatboxer or semi-professional, but someone who's pursuing it as an entertainer and performance artist. What can you advise as a sound engineer as things not to do when you're doing, let's say, a sound check or a performance? What are things not to do, and some etiquette towards a sound engineer that you might have personally experienced from both sides of it? As you said, you have that duality. Can you explain to people that are getting into it, because something that's happened throughout every beatboxer's career is having an issue with the sound, man. Every single person has huge stories about this. So can you explain things you can go and do to lessen these issues when dealing with a sound engineer in general? Just in general, your opinion, not saying specifics of, these things, but just in general, how does one deal with that relationship of having a sound engineer doing it for you whilst you're on stage beatboxing?
So this is a really hard subject to cover, mainly because, first off, if the engineer has never had experience working with beatboxers before, you're going to have a tough time, no matter what you do. It's going to be difficult, because it's so the stuff we do as beatboxers goes against what most engineers are taught at uni or coming up, like cupping the mic, proximity effect, all the things that we use to make it sound better. Actually, is engineers are taught, don't ever do that. Like I'm part of some of these online groups on Facebook called Audio Engineers Shitposting, for example. Hilarious. Shout out to them. And one of the things they always talk about is just like, oh, people who cut the mics are the worst. This is what you're going to deal with. So the first thing I can say is get to know the sound engineer. Don't just treat him as another bartender or another bouncer that you're walking past. He is your he or she is your most important person in the entire venue. I think a lot of beatboxers might forget about that. They think they don't necessarily understand what's going on. I would say before you even get into it, start learning a little bit yourself. Go on YouTube and look. There's so much free information out there that's really easy to access and basic, like Audio for Dummies or some videos like that. I don't know. I'd have to look at the specific names, but just go do a bit of research yourself to get a basic understanding, at least, of what's going on. I think as an artist, it's so important to understand what you're doing in your craft. Like a lot of people, the first thing I noticed when I got into the scene is so many people just knew how to hold a mic, and then everything that happened from here on, sorry if that probably sounded really distorted, then everything that happens after the mic, they don't even understand how it gets from the mic to the mixing desk, from the mixing desk to the speakers. That entire process, I think, is so important for beatboxers to at least have some basic understanding, so that when you do go and talk with a sound engineer, you're not talking in the darkness. You have some concept of what he or she is doing with your sound, So yeah, learn a bit yourself about audio. You don't have to go and get a degree, but at least understand the basics of what's happening, and then from there, make the engineer your best friend, because these things I've experienced working with artists as an engineer. They have all the power. They can put as much or as little energy or effort into making you sound good on stage as they want to. They don't have to. They can just make you come through the speakers and be like, cool, it's playing. There you go. If they like you and they have a good relationship with you, they're actually going to want to make you sound better, because they want you to have a good performance. They know how much the good sound means to having a good performance as an artist. So really build a relationship. It's the first thing I usually say in most of my workshops is, other than the learning about the audio stuff, is make best friends with the sound engineer. Because learn his or her name first off. The amount of time I've seen an artist, like an established artist on stage, yeah, sound engineer, can you turn me up? If you're a sound engineer behind the desk and you hear that, you're like, I'm not your little bitch. Sorry for my French, but build a relationship. If I'm an artist and someone, that's why I love the beatbox community. Everyone knows me now. So if someone's like, hey, Sinjo, can you turn me up in the monitors a little bit? I built a relationship with all these people, and it's so much better working with them. I love it. I love working with these beatboxers because we have a relationship. But if you're a beatboxer that's touring and doing shows in a venue where you don't know the sound engineer, the first thing you should do before anything else is go straight to the sound booth and strike up a conversation with them. If they're busy, leave them alone during sound check. Find the right moment, because you don't want to interrupt them when they're busy. It's one of the worst things. I don't know, a lot of people know my Sinjo mode, but when I'm in the middle of sound check and I've got my head full, the worst thing you can do is come to me and start trying to have a casual conversation. Find the right moment, but when they're having a beer at the bar or something like that, or having a cigarette break, go have a chat with them. Hey man, I'm this and this, da-da-da-da. Don't make it necessarily about the work. Don't go in there yeah man, I need this from you. Because then it's just like, everyone wants something from the sound engineer all the time. And it's so refreshing to have an artist come up and be like, hey man, buy him a beer. Like, honestly, if you do that, they're like, it's just the gesture of having someone treat you like another human being, a part of the working function of the club, is such a change, because a lot of artists treat engineers like shit. So I think that's the biggest advice I can give to an artist beyond the audio technical aspect of it, is Become friends with the engineer. That's your most important person in the whole venue. Not your booking agent, not the bartender, not the boss of the venue. It's the sound engineer. That's the first thing I could think of.
So, okay, let's say you've gone to this venue for people that are getting, whether it's a battle and they're dealing with you specifically, or you're performing somewhere else and you're dealing with another sound engineer from somewhere around the world. Let's say, what makes for a good sound check? If I were to walk up on stage and I'm asking you to do a sound check for beatboxing specifically, what sounds would you say to go through to kind of start off? Because I see that I've seen people who, and personally I've done shows a lot, so I understand the idea of my way of doing it, of going through certain things to go and make it their job easier. So what makes the sound engineer's job easy once mixing the sound live on a stage in a venue, in your opinion, to go and start with and work through? What process is good for you, and do you think would be good advice for somebody in the sound check mode to make it effective use of their time and not just kind of go there and be like, here's a full thing right away? And like, can you kind of give the explanation of that?
So the first thing that the engineer is going to do is set the gain, which is the first input level that comes through from the microphone into the mixing desk. If that stage is screwed up, everything afterwards is messed up. So it's the first thing that needs to be done. To get that right so that you're not distorting or overpowering it, is usually to do your loudest or most peaky sounds, so with the biggest transients. Transients like an attack, like a snare or a kick drum. Usually it's like outward K snare, clicks that, like wah-wahs click. Whenever I have wah-wah, I'm like, do your click. That's the easiest one to tell, because if I don't check that first and then set up all my settings and later he does the sound, he's going to clip the input and it's going to mess up all my settings throughout the rest of the chain. So the loudest peaky sounds like an outward or a kicks, not so much. Bass sounds don't have as much sharp energy as high-pitched sounds. So clicks, case, outward case snares, things like that. Do that first so that the engineer can get the right level of the gain. And then from there, he's going to start compressing and EQing. And that's where you want to start doing your bass sounds and your trumpets and the long pads, things that aren't as attacky. And just do it step by step. And just talk with the engineer. Like, every room is so different. One thing I don't see enough happening in the beatbox scene is something called ringing out the mic. Google that. It's a bit too much for me to explain, but it's basically when you find the specific frequencies of that microphone in the room that are feeding back, and you cut them out from the monitors specifically and from the speakers. But beatboxing, you really need, like the EQs that I end up using on my chains in GBB, I show other engineers that, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? It's insane. Like, they're like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, but it sounds good, right? And they're like, yeah. That's all that matters. That's the problem with most engineers, is they've been taught a certain way of doing things. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the right way is. It just matters if it sounds good. That's it. That's all that matters. So I end up going through these insane EQ settings that end up cutting the frequencies and making it sound good. That's all to do with ringing out the mic. So learn what that is and try to do that when you're going into a place. Talk to the engineer and say, hey, I need to ring out the mic for beatboxing. So then you cup the mic and swing it close to the monitors. You get the feedback frequencies coming through, then he's going to cut them. Once those are gone, you're going to have so much more luck with, well, you're going to have less feedback, basically, in general. And I don't see that happening enough with beatboxers. Most beatboxers don't even know what ringing out the mic is. And I see a lot of engineers, it's a bit of a pain to ring out the mic. So if they can avoid it, they won't do it. But if you, as the artist, goes, I want to ring out the mic, you'll have a better time. You'll have less feedback. So there, ringing out the mic, do your high attack sounds first, then go into bass, and then look at the EQing and the compression afterwards. So don't worry so much. Like, first thing I see a lot of people feel like, straight away, I want more bass, I want more bass. Like, forget about that at the start. Do your your snares and your clicks and your high attack sounds first, then move on afterwards, step by step. And then by the end, once you've got those little things sorted, then you can do a full routine and see how it sounds and adjust from there.
That is solid information. Okay. Solid information.
Glad to help.
I also wanted to go and say, for our friends that do loop station currently, when they are on the stage, how important is it for them to not change their settings once practiced and they're
Oh my God.
Because I'll say from a personal experience of seeing people perform, if you're a loop station artist, as he said at the beginning, once you have that level set, that gain set, and everything else is working from that gain, if you were to go and be like, oh, well, now there's people, I want to be louder, and you turn yourself up, everything's just going to be feeding back like crazy, and you're not going to get a whole lot of that. People are going to have a horrible time.
This is such a problem that what we've started doing at GBB is after the final line check on the day of the battles, we don't let them take their loop station away with them. They have to leave it on stage because a lot of it sucks because sometimes people want to practice last minute before their round, which I totally understand. But because so many artists or loop stations, it's usually the less experienced ones, like people who have been touring professionally a lot and working with sound engineers a lot, they learn this over time. The ones that have only really competed in battles, it's just the mentality, and I totally get it, is like, oh, if I'm louder, I'm going to be better. It's this whole idea. It's a problem in a lot of areas of beatbox, not just loop station. A lot of people think louder is better. It's not, but that's a different topic. But yeah, it really is an issue. So if you do a sound check as a looper and it sounds good on stage, don't touch any of your settings. Just leave it. But you're gonna hurt yourself in the end. You don't know what you could do. It could be anything from creating a bit of distortion to creating such bad feedback you could blow the speakers. Like it can go from really mild side effects to really bad side effects and everything in between. So you're gonna ruin your set. You might not. You might make it. Like there might be that 1 in 1,000 where someone like had a bad engineer, they didn't gain enough and they turn themselves up and it sounds a bit better. That can happen. But 99.9% of the time, you're just going to ruin your own sound check. So concentrate on making it sound good in the sound check. If it sounds good, for loopers, if you're there, do your set, let it loop and come off stage and stand in the crowd and listen to yourself. So you can hear what other people hear. So many people don't do that. You just stand on stage with their headphones, do their sound check, and walk off. And it's like you didn't even check what you sounded like to the rest of the crowd. You only heard what you sound like in your headphones. So I really recommend practicing as much as possible by listening to the speakers, because your headphones are just a reference point. They are not what other people are hearing. They're hearing the speakers. So get off stage, listen to yourself, fix it in the sound check, and then don't touch it. Please, for me.
I want to continue this line for a quick second of once you've at home, how does one practice? Let's just say loop station first of all, but the idea of practicing at home, and if you have the availability to have monitors, let's say, or a powered speaker of some sort where you can play it through, how do you like, in your opinion, how can you effectively practice if you don't get a lot of stage time for stage time? And I'll go loop station and solo, but if you have the speakers at home, how can you practice with them and use it effectively in your opinion?
It's really tough. I've talked with a lot of different people with different situations about this. The only real foolproof method is to get stage time. And I know some people like Torsten, for example, in Denmark, we talked about this years ago, and he had this like little local club, small stage, small speakers. I've been there a few times, and they just let him practice there when they were closed or when they were doing setup for the next event or something. He could go in and do that. Try and find something like that, build a relationship with a local club owner, small club owner. I know right now it's very difficult to do that, obviously, but that's the first thing. I know that's not going to be possible for a lot of people. Practice on speakers at home. Don't practice on headphones. And then if you have speakers, studio monitors can work. It's a really difficult one. I think it's one of the hardest things. Like practicing with a microphone as a solo beatboxer on a system at home is already really important. But for loop station, it's a whole new level of importance. Like you need to learn to mix and play your stuff with a speaker playing. One of the biggest problems we've had is when you have, like, for example, someone like Sin, the German loop station. He's an amazing looper, such an incredible artist. But he didn't practice much on speakers. So he's using these effects that would basically, what they're doing is like a sharp bandpass EQ where you're boosting a specific frequency a lot, again and again. And that's how you create these like kind of synthy effects. The problem is if you put that through a speaker, it's going to come back in through the microphone and boost that frequency again. So you get crazy feedback. And there's nothing that the engineer can do about that. That's down to you as an artist using your equipment the right way. So if you're building these routines using these effects chains in a certain way, you might actually be building effects chains that are not usable on stage. And so you need to perform at home with some kind of speaker to hear what's going back and forth through the microphone just to get a reference point. And over the years, I know now what effects they are. So if we do a wild card and I've judged one and they've gotten through and I hear their routine, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a problem when we get to the stage. It happens all the time. And it's not their fault. It's just, it's something that you could never know unless you train in that area. And one of the things that's so amazing with these loop stations, they're built in a way that you don't have to have any previous audio knowledge to start playing around and making cool music with it. I love that about it. It just means when you start getting to that professional level on stage, you might run into issues. So it's just a good way to practice as much as possible at home with some form of speaker.
That's also good information. Now, I'm going to go quickly from that, the idea of practicing at home. Can you give, in your opinion, again, I want to go for basic, very basic, what other than people can practice. Okay, you can practice anywhere. Beatboxing, that's the one. It's the most portable instrument. You can go and practice anytime, anywhere, really, as long as you're not eating or drinking. You'll spit in people and get wet, you know?
Challenge accepted.
Okay. But I mean the idea of what do you recommend for beatboxers that is an relatively affordable starter pack of how to record themselves and create content. Let's go and just say for practicing and creating content for beatboxers who are starting out. Is there a microphone, USB interface? Is there what products do you recommend for starting out? Very, very rudimentally starting out.
I mean, the interfaces is such a big range now. I'm honestly so not up to date with the entry level stuff because I'm concentrating so much on getting like the highest quality I possibly can. And audio gear it's really expensive. It's something that you have to come to terms with when you get into being a musician or getting into the professional audio world. You're going to have to learn that you just accept that if you want good quality, you need to pay for it. It's so expensive. It is an expensive industry, but it's worth it because one of the things I've noticed is that when I do have a cheaper product, it lasts a year or two before something happens to it. All the stuff I've spent more money on, 10 years is still working. So in the long term, you're also saving money. In terms of microphones, I mean, we all know the standard ones, the SM58s and beaters and the AKGs. It's all gone through it. I don't like the sounds at all. It's what you're willing to invest, really. Like my favorite right now for just an all-rounder is the DPA 2028 because it sounds a lot at 500, but in the world of mics, that's so cheap for what you're getting. It also doubles as a studio mic and a stage mic. It really depends on what you want and how much you're willing to invest. It's such a hard question to answer all around. But just start, do some research. You need to start somewhere. You need to start getting on a microphone and practicing. Whether that's a terrible quality microphone at the beginning, it's still a start, and to work your way up. I haven't compared enough of those low end. The D5 is fine. The SM58 as well. You can get them relatively cheap online. I just think if you really are committed to beatboxing, it's worth it to invest. It just depends. So you're really talking about someone who's just started, completely.
Yes, I could say that. I remember even myself when I started doing stuff, I had this literally it's like, I think it was called dynamic audio, or it wasn't Dynaudio. It was like a terrible version that we have in Canada. And no offense to it, excuse me, we got to start somewhere. But it was literally like a 10 volt or something like that, like a little tiny speaker. And I just started practicing like that just to go and get the feeling of holding and hearing it go through an amplification, right? And as much as that speaker got blown out and it's, going to be bronzed or something like that, it was a start, right?
Yeah.
So I do agree with you that if you have intentions on continually improving and becoming professional and want to go and get into these battles and stuff, at some point, if you're financially available to do so, it's always a wise investment to go invest in good products and good quality speakers, microphones, and the such. But I just was trying to figure out, for someone that wants to go and, I mean, even a cell phone works to go and record and listen to yourself back. But so I'm saying, is there something you can do just to go and practice to hear yourself back? Because I find like that's a good range of something that you can go and do and listen to yourself back to get the idea of where needs improvement. Are you off time? Are you doing stuff, But for just practicing at home, can you give an explanation of something that you can use a product, whether it's a phone, a little microphone, something?
Totally. So I misunderstood. I thought you meant for getting into it, to start practicing, to start getting on stage and that's it. Just to hear yourself back, use your phone. Like the iPhone microphones are bloody good. They're really good, to be honest, for just a cell phone. Like I record a lot of, I've sampled myself and used it in productions from my phone a lot. It's actually my main tool for sampling a lot of things. It sounds terrible as a professional engineer, but they just work. And they actually add their own little element to it. So if you're just trying to practice and hear yourself back, if you have a half decent smartphone, you're already sorted. That's the best way to start. So I misunderstood. Your question is more to do with someone who wants to start getting on stage and have a setup at home to practice into a speaker and everything like that. I'm not the right person to ask about that because I'm so out of touch about this stuff. And what I said before, to be honest, I might have sounded like I was putting AKG and Shure on blast. I wasn't. Like, they're incredible companies. And to be honest, there's a lot of people that still say that the Shure is their favorite microphone to perform with. It's really down to personal taste. I'm so obsessed now with certain levels of quality that I have no reference point anymore below that when it comes to performing on stage. But yeah, your phone. If you wanna start listening to yourself, getting a reference point that's half decent. Look, I hope you don't mind if I do a little bit of a tangent back to the kickback battle wildcards, because something I noticed a lot of now is people actually had a lot of decent microphones that they were recording with. But I don't know what happened. Either they lost the audio file or they set the settings wrong, but they sounded horrible. Like they were trying to boost the bass too much. They were overcompensating because maybe they didn't know what they were doing, technically speaking. But they ended up damaging their audio sound. Whereas if they had just used their phone or the camera that they recorded with and just used that audio, it would have been way better. So sometimes this overthinking that can, if you don't know what you're doing and if you want to go, okay, I want to have really good sound, so you get all this good gear, but you don't know how to use it properly, and you overthink it, you can actually end up ruining it for yourself more than if you just grabbed your phone and recorded it and uploaded that. Sometimes the simple thing works better.
100%. I do agree with you. And you didn't misunderstand the question originally. I did ask you with it leaning towards getting on stage and if you had a basic setup. So that was my original question, but I changed it into just for self-practice. So you're on the level. You're on the level, my friend. Level. I was gonna say, big shout out to the homie Bob Evans.
Bob Evans,
my boy. Got that meatloaf on blast. Let's go.
This podcast could divulge into just purely in-joke references.
Yeah, well, I'll try to stay. In.
For those of you out there who don't know, me and Scotty are actually quite good friends, and we've had a lot of travels and spent a lot of time together. So this is basically like two buddies having a call, but we're trying to keep it focused. So let's keep it level on the level.
Back to it. All right. So I was gonna say, let's go with two then. Home studios, right? Let's say that somebody has been beatboxing for a while. They might have a loop station, for instance. They might have this microphone or microphone. They might have an AKG D5. They might have the SM58. They might have. So let's just say they have a basic setup and a way to go and attach said either audio interface and or loop station into a computer.
I know where you're going with this.
What are some very basic ideas of how to go and press record without it coming out, your files are not waves, are just like hitting and peaking all the hell. And it's what are very, very basic audio engineering tips at the most basic of levels? We won't go too depth into this because this is something that you'd go to school for, like you did, to go and actually learn how to properly do it. But is there a basic line of thinking when it comes to beatboxing that you'd want to share with people once recording shoutouts and or wildcards and videos in general?
So you're touching on some of my specific, I had some talking points that I'd written down just in case for the podcast. And this is one of the biggest ones, which I've noticed enough people don't understand. So you've got a microphone into an interface, or sometimes you've got those USB microphones that plug directly into your computer, whatever it is. Then you have a software where you're recording. So also Zoom, portable recorders, all that's the same thing, essentially, just works in different ways. But the one biggest mistake I see a lot of beatboxers do is they don't understand what 0 dB means. 0, the last level. So think of it like a trampoline inside of a basketball court, an indoor basketball court. The ceiling is 0 dB. If you hit that, you've put your head through the ceiling and you've broken your neck and you're dead. It's the same thing with the recording. If you're I hope you like that analogy. So 0 dB is not, it's like maximum level. You should not be hitting that at all. Minus 6 dB, so dB stands for decibels. It's just a reference point. There's so many different levels of reference points, but the standard one, dB, that we use for recording. If you look on a Zoom or if you look on Audacity or whatever software you're using to record, there's a level that shows you how loud you're being. If you hit 0, you've gone too far. It's distorted. It's going to sound bad. So your average sounds should hit around minus 12. And the peaks, the maximum shouldn't go above minus 6 dB. If you follow that guideline, you're going to be fine. The recording is going to sound good. That's why I say at the beginning, when you plug in your microphone and you're testing your sound, look at the meter, do your loudest outward, hold the mic how you're going to hold it, use the energy you're going to use when you're battling. This is one thing a lot of beatboxers don't realize is when you're battling, you go way harder than when you're doing sound check. A lot of beatboxers go up there, okay, do sound check. Okay, and then they get on the battle and go like full power, and it destroys what the sound check did because I've set the levels to that. So the same thing when you're recording, when you do your level check, make sure you go the same energy you're going to do in the video. Make sure you're not hitting above minus 6 dB, and it's going to be fine. So that's the first thing when you plug in. 0 dB is bad. I think a lot of people saw it as like, oh, 0 is like 0. It's like flat. That's where we're supposed to hit. So people just aim for 0. Oh, look, it's hitting 0 the whole time. Perfect. That's the sound. That's really bad. Like so many of the wildcards that we judge had so much distortion and they were using mics. So I think it's just people don't realize that 0 dB is like the maximum you can go. And when you go to that, you're going to distort your sound. Minus 12.
Let's go. So again, if you're watching out there and you have yourself whatever program you're recording with, make sure that you are not hitting 0 decibels. Make sure that you're sitting at maximum minus 6 and preferably around minus 12.
Your average should be hovering around there.
Okay. Now, part number 2 of this line of questioning, in your opinion, is it better to record a wet or a dry sample? That being the idea of, is it better to go and record with a microphone with no effects straight into this, or is it better to go and have an EQ'd microphone recorded and then not have as much, not have as much to engineer after the fact?
Well, who's doing the engineering? That's the question.
At home, let's say.
If you're doing it at home and you have some idea about what you're doing, you can do it beforehand. I would always recommend to record as dry as possible because you can do everything later. If you make a mistake in a wet recording and you've done some wet, meaning, as you said, putting effects, reverb, EQ, whatever you're doing, if you're affecting the sound in any way, if you make a mistake with the setting, you can't do it. It's recorded, it's permanent. So me personally, I always want to get as raw as possible, as unaffected, as clean as possible. And then you can do whatever you want afterwards. You can send it to engineers as well. If you're ever working with other producers, which I recommend every beatboxer, if you're getting serious about performing, find an engineer to work with. It's one of the reasons Reeps' performances in the early days, it's still to this day, were so phenomenal. It's because he built a relationship with Lyndon J, who's an incredible producer and sound engineer. He's not really, he does sound engineer, but he's more of a producer. So they approached it like that from a producer. He's a drummer and producer and musician, and approached it like that. And they built this relationship together. And that helped his performance just elevate itself to something else. Everyone said it in the early days, like 2013, 14, before before I started doing a lot of work doing live sound, and there was a lot of consistency across it, his performances were always just outstripped everyone else's. And a lot of that was to do with, besides the fact that he's an incredible beatboxer, was to do with Lyndon Jay's work. So build a relationship with an engineer. And now I've sidetracked myself again to forget what the original question was.
Wet versus dry recording.
Wet versus dry, right. So if you build a relationship with an engineer, they're always going to want to have dry, because they're also going to know more what to do. If you don't have much experience with EQing or compressing, you're probably going to mash the sound in a way that is not going to be beneficial for yourself. If you do really know what you're doing, go ahead, record that way. I personally always want to have as raw as possible, and I recommend you do it as well, because you can always fix it later, but you can't unfix something you've recorded permanently into the audio. It's done,
100%. And is that with solo beatboxing, once again, not going into the loop station version of stuff, is there anything that you would say setting wise, if you were going to be doing something that you're going to be putting up right away, essentially, like is there any settings that you would say are important to have on a microphone if you were to be doing something like a live stream, let's say, or doing something where there is no chance to go and EQ it after the fact?
Yeah, so that's what kind of happened before in at the beginning of this session. I had set up a loopback. I have to buy the software. I forgot that I haven't actually bought it yet. I had basically set up my microphone to go through Ableton, get compressed, EQ'd, and a bit of reverb, and then go into the Skype call with a software called Loopback Audio, which allows you to route sound inside your computer, kind of like a mixing desk. So in those scenarios, yes, you need to, because there's no other way to do it. Right now, you're getting just pure raw audio from a microphone. The good thing is, and this is where the microphone is the most important thing after the beatboxing, this mic, it's really good. So it's my favorite one. So it's already sounding great. I don't have to do much to it. If I did, it would just make it sound better. When you're using mics that might not be as flat, when I say flat, I mean the frequency response that you get is exactly what's coming out of your mouth. So rather than some microphones have more bass, less highs, vice versa, all that kind of stuff. This is one of the reasons I like this microphone, is it's so flat that it just represents exactly what's going on. Especially when you're using microphones that don't have a flat frequency response, it's good to be able to affect it to make it sound as good as possible. That just comes down to, surprisingly, the technology is not as advanced as in other areas. Like when I first started getting into this line of thought of how would I affect my beatboxing, say if I was doing a live stream at home, I was really shocked to realize there's very limited amount of software out there that allows you to do that. This whole pandemic thing really flipped it on its head for me, because that's when I started in April. I started really getting into this, and that's when I discovered Loopback, and it's been around for a while, but there's not much out there. It's very limited. It's still a new kind of area. That's why a lot of people, it's still old school, have a mixer. You can get these like it's in my studio. You can get these
4-channel, 5-channel little mixers.
Exactly. And you have compression, EQ. You even sometimes have little digital reverb and delays. You can use that, for example. That's a very easy way to do it without worrying about the digital realm, because when you start going in the digital stuff, you get problems like what I just had, where it stops. You didn't pay for the subscription, so it just cancels out, or you get shutdowns or glitches or lags. When you got physical hardware, you can do it, and it's very reliable. That's how we did it forever until recently.
Yes, and again, just another possibility of you telling your opinion on products. Let's go with at-home recording, and let's say for audio for headphones, because everybody, like I know someone like Sorrow uses, I think, in-ear monitors that he has. I've seen a bunch of different people with a bunch of different headphones at their studio. I just picked up a pair of these guys here. And I was going to say, what in your opinion is a reasonable set of headphones to go and record with and mix through?
Okay, those are two different things.
I'm talking about a person at home who is making some, not an overproduced YouTube, very produced track, but something that they're going to do either live streaming rather, or a personal thing that they're going to go and do that's not meant to be overproduced and overworked at. What's a headphone that you think can be recorded on well and also mixed in well for a reasonable price. Because people were asking, a lot of it is the idea that I was asked before having this conversation with you, is things that are somewhat affordable and can be used like a good workhorse, essentially, that you're just going to be able to use.
So 2 in 1. So both being able to record and mix down on. Well, my favorite right now is the V Motors from the V Moto M100 from I think it's a subsidiary of Roland. And I actually discovered them by accident because we have a partnership with them. I never would have picked them out, but they sent us some of these headphones. And my other mixing headphones, which is the DT990 Pros from Beyerdynamic, which are amazing open back headphones. What that means is that they let sound bleed out. So they're not ideal for recording, but for mixing and mastering, they're great. They were my headphones for like 8 years. The cable, it died. And I just had these sitting around and I just started using them. I bought a new pair of them. I don't want to get too much in the sidetrack, but basically you have to burn in headphones. So you have to let them play music for like 100 hours to get them to the same level. And I'd had my other ones for 8 years, so they sounded really nice. The new ones didn't sound as good, and these ones sounded great. So I've been using these now for a while, and I think they're 200 euros or something, which is a decent price. And I think they're on, if you go on like those headphone ranking websites, they're consistently rated as the most durable. These things can take a beating, man. So I love, at the moment, I love these. There's such a huge range if we want to get into this discussion of options of what you can use. I also don't want to sound like I'm just picking up the sponsors, because Roland does sponsor us with these, but I've been loving them, and I've been using these now for the last year, both for mixing and mastering, and because they're closed back, you can use them for recording as well.
Yes.
MB14, I think, uses his ones as well. Tom Thumb got a pair. We did a whole thing with them. The Gene and Tom and
Yes.
the whole Roland, the tag team loop station videos we did with them. They got custom pairs. It's my favorite project by far. They got custom ones of those, and I think they still use them now and again. I love them. So for loop station, they would be my first recommendation. Sorry, let me just say.
Yeah, my bad.
This is such a personal thing, though, with headphones. Like head shape, ear shape. Your like. Some headphones that for me are super comfortable don't feel good on other people's heads, for example. So really, my best recommendation is to go into an audio pro shop and just bring like one of your tracks. That if you make tracks yourself, bring a recording. They will usually let you, or bring your phone with one of your tracks on there and just sample all the different headphones and listen to them and get used to them. Once you're happy with them, really get used to listening to your headphones and then listening to what they sound like on other speakers. So once you get a reference point, so you know how your headphones translate across to other speakers, you can actually do everything in them, theoretically. Stereo panning and stuff like that becomes a bit of an issue, but now we're getting into like complex production methods. But yeah, you just have to try. It's such a personal thing. You just go in there and test them out yourself.
Absolutely, 100% personal. And then I again, that's what I was asking for your opinion, because these ones that I'm rocking right now, I just got them.
DT77 770s.
Yeah, and because I was doing stuff at Heat's place, at John's place, and I was like, oh, these are just comfy and they feel
it's
good
super
for me.
Comfortable. Yeah.
For me, that was the one that was just like, wow, this is what I want to use. So finding something that excuse me is comfortable and that you like is very important. It's like anything really. Like as much as you can have XYZ product. If you're happy to use it, it works for you. That's probably one of the more important things when it comes to certain little parts of it, I would say.
This is the thing with audio. As much as we can get into the whole thing of like quality is so good, Skrillex released that first album that he made, Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, which just destroyed the dubstep scene. He made it on some shitty desktop speakers at home. You know, it's really, if you know what your setup sounds like and how it translates to other sounds, you don't need the best gear in the world to make good music. You just need a reference point. One thing I can really recommend to people is take tracks you like, the well-produced tracks by professional producers, and reference them in whatever you're listening to. So if you're mixing down one of your songs, place that song next to it and listen to it back and forth and compare, look at the frequency range, how they sit together, how they sound in your headphones. It'll give you a reference point as to what you're doing with your own stuff and how it should sound in your headphones. Because if it's a track you like and you know how it should sound on a big system or good speakers or good headphones, and you don't have good headphones, you can then use that knowledge to translate how your mix could sound better, just using whatever headphones or setup you have.
Again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, everybody out there, getting some knowledge right now.
Dropping some knowledge, man.
Dropping some knowledge in this. I want to go and ask you also, continuing on this line, since the partnership with Dyn Audio, where you've reviewed both the 2028 and the
DPA. DPA is the microphone. Do you mean the microphone or the speakers?
Oh no, sorry, I read that incorrectly in my notes here. I'm DPA microphone 2028 and Dyn Audio for the monitors that they had.
Yes.
So my apologies there. But when you did those reviews, you started up something called Sinjo Reviews. Is that something that is going to be revisited by you for a personal channel, or is that something that we're going to be able to see more of in the future for Swissbeatbox? Just reviewing microphones, just engineering stuff that people want to know about, so you could just in general, because that's a question I've seen in this chat, and I also want to know, is that something, because of your knowledge and specifically for beatboxing, is that something Sinjo Reviews might be able making a comeback?
So when I mentioned earlier when I'm starting my own channel, it's going to be more for my own stuff. It'll involve beatboxing as well, but it's stuff that I'm not able to pursue necessarily on the Swissbeatbox platform. The stuff that we've already done, like the reviews, is something that we really want to pursue. To be honest, we wanted to do more by now. Time management and other projects have gotten in the way. There will definitely be more of those coming. Sinjo Reviews will be a big thing hopefully a thing that we can continue forward on Swissbeatbox. We're also in a very big transitional phase. A lot of people don't know this about the company, but we've had different people come in and move out, and throughout the whole pandemic, we were supposed to already have a studio set up in Berlin with a head office. There was so much stuff we were going to do this year to help solidify and build the company, and we weren't able to do it. So it's kind of set back a lot of what we wanted to do coming up in the future, which is still going to happen. It's just taking a bit more time now. So yeah, definitely. Sinjo Reviews was something I really enjoyed doing. Something I want to do is get better at being on camera. This is fine, it's different, but when I'm sitting in my studio with a camera facing at me and trying to talk, it's very nerve-wracking, and I want to get over that feeling and just kind of be as natural as possible. One thing a lot of people, I think you might notice as well, when a camera comes on you, you become this other version of you. Not ones when it's your friend just filming you, even then a little bit, but when it's like, okay, now you have to perform, it's suddenly like you get a bit extra, everyone always puts on that little bit of whatever. And I don't want to do that. I want to find that. I think it's one of the things that a lot of actors go through, is trying to learn how to be. Once you become yourself in front of the camera and forget it's there, then you're able to naturally play characters, It's something that I really want to get better at. And I'm very critical of my own performances. I'm really bad. I watch those reviews, and I know it seems really petty or silly, but I hate myself when I see it.
Come on, man.
No, I know it sounds really bad, but I'm very self-critical about anything I do on camera or musically. So when I want to get better at that as well. That's a process I want to go through. But yeah, long answer short, I do want to do more reviews.
Long answer short, I hate myself, but I'll be doing reviews.
Basically. Yeah.
Hey, that's great. That's great. Ooh, you made me snort laugh, doggy. That's funny. I want to go and ask you to talk to me about Dark Minds. Talk to me about maybe not even necessarily that specifically, but can you kind of walk through? Because there's multiple facets of your life. You got head engineer for audio at Swissbeatbox, doing it live, producing and DJing, and I've seen you DJ, and that's something, again, I love to go and watch, and multiple different things. Can you kind of just tell us what is coming up, what got you involved in the DJ world, and also where is that something like pursuing that as another outlet for yourself, artist wise, as Sinjo the DJ? Kind of give me a little run through of what you've gone and what you want to still do with it, and things that you want to work towards?
So as I said before, I've been a musician since I was 6, but growing up, I never thought I would do music as a career. It was never, I wanted to be an architect or a chef and so many other things. When I want to be a race car driver, watch Too Fast, Too Furious. I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Yeah. No, I never saw it. And it wasn't until I discovered drum and bass. And I just had this moment when I was at the front of a gig with one of my favorite artists, the Upbeats from New Zealand. When I was in New Zealand, they were performing and it just hit me. It's like, that's what I want to do. Like what they performing, producing, creating drum and bass music. That music was the first time I was into I was a big metalhead for a while before that. I went through hip hop. I went through so many different genres, but I never really saw myself doing anything professionally, musically, until I found drum and bass. And that was kind of the driving force to make me go study audio production, which ended up the whole career, like the whole knock-on effect. It all started because of drum and bass. When I fell into this role of doing the beatboxing stuff, it kind of took over all of my life, and I never really found time to come back and try and pursue that, which I still really want to do. It's one of my biggest goals in my life. And then when you mentioned Dark Minds, I met this amazing producer called Artifact. Marcel, he became one of my best friends. He lives in Berlin as well. We became really close friends, and after a while, we're like, why don't we try and make some music together? We did a few things here and there, but the stuff with Swissbeatbox and my own procrastination and self-doubt is a big issue I have. Is I'm a perfectionist in a really negative way. I don't think that is a positive word at all. It's like I don't finish things because they're not good enough for myself, but then I end up not getting better at the things and getting to the point you need to. As a producer or any musician, you just need to keep doing. That's how you get better. And it's something I've always struggled with because I find my things aren't good enough. So then I don't finish them and it doesn't complete. So I'm getting over that now. I'm getting better at that. We started some projects together. We ran into some issues because of my limitations in that area. So at the moment, the whole Dark Minds project is kind of on hold. I'm hoping eventually it's going to come back because we had some tracks that we started together which were amazing. And I really love him as a producer. If you go, shout out to Artifact. It's ART1 Fact on Instagram. He's doing a lot of like short tutorials about production, so you can check that stuff out. It's really awesome. But yeah, he's killing it right now, and he's kind of doing what I want to do in another area with beatbox. Anyway, meeting him was kind of the catalyst to get me back into this because for so long he does the exact opposite. He works and he just finishes music constantly. He's always putting out music. And I've watched his growth in the last couple of years and I'm like, damn it, it's really good. He's really getting better. And that's what you have to do as a producer or as a musician is just keep doing stuff. Doesn't matter if you think it's bad or not, just put it out and move on to the next thing. Finish the things. If you don't finish them, you don't go through the process of finishing the music, you don't learn the skills necessary to get good at making that music. And it's something I've struggled with for a long time and I'm learning to kind of get over. So at the moment, 2021 is kind of the year I want to get that behind me. This is why I wanted to start a YouTube channel because it kind of creates a sense of urgency. I've built this whole thing with Swissbeatbox. I work really hard with it. It's like really high intense, stressful, but it's made me also at the same time comfortable. I've built this life that I'm used to with beatboxing, and comfortability is where creativity goes to die. And I want to get myself out of my comfort zone. And part of that is to get on camera and start making stuff. Even if I don't think it's good enough, I just want to complete it. So this is why I want to start a YouTube channel, to start just forcing myself mentally. It seems a bit weird to go on YouTube to deal with mental health issues. It's like the exact opposite place you want to go, considering the history. But irony, man. Yeah, so that's kind of my goal with the YouTube channel, is to create the sense of urgency by announcing to people, to my fans and followers and people out there that support me, that I'm going to do this. And if I announce it to them, then I kind of have to do it. You know, it's one of those catch-22s where you make yourself have to become accountable.
Yes, deadlines and accountability are very, very important, I believe, for self-growth.
It's so hard when you're self-employed, though. If you don't have, like, I have my boss with Swissbeatbox, we have the team, it works. You know, that's where I finish work and I get stuff done, even if I'm not 100% satisfied with it. It gets out there. And the best work I've ever done is usually stuff that I've had to, the last 2 nights, I'm up all night long working my ass off to get it ready in time. And it's usually the best stuff I've ever done. I work really good under pressure. But if I don't have the pressure there, I need to create it now because I've created this self-employment lifestyle where I have to somehow create some form of pressure to get me to finish the stuff. It's one of the biggest struggles of being self-employed or being an artist is to create that sense of urgency and create deadlines for yourself. It's so important.
Yes, and I've beared witness to the amount that this gentleman works. So everybody that's sitting at home, one more time, big up for Sinjo. I've seen him losing his mind with stuff having to come out and being like, Scott, I can't do it right. And then comes out with sounding awesome. Yeah, man. You know what? We're gonna get into another section of the show. I'm gonna get into rapid fire. Rapid fire. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get to rapid fire. First time in 2021, and we got Sinjo on right here. The way this is going to work is I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want you to go and answer as quickly as possible without thinking about them too much, and we'll see how it goes. So, ladies and gentlemen, rapid fire with Sinjo. Rapid fire. First question: who is your current favorite solo beatboxer?
Oh, I hate this question so much. I love what Duds is doing right now. Yeah. I really like it. There's so many, but he's doing some awesome things.
Who is your current favorite loop station artist?
Oh God. Current. I think Rhythm Mind. Yeah.
Who is your current favorite beatbox crew?
Ooh. I haven't heard one. It's Barry one. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's easy.
Who is your current favorite tag team?
Oh. Wait. Uni Team. Yeah.
What is your current favorite sound that you use? What is your current favorite sound in the beatbox scene?
Oh shit. It's definitely not whistles. Oh my God. If I hear another whistle, I'm going to shoot myself. What is it? Oh, current favorite. This is really hard. I think like the different forms of inward bass that are coming out. Yeah, the variations of inward bass. Yeah.
Who is your favorite drum and bass producer currently?
Oh shit. Fuck, that's a good question. I'm gonna say Teddy Killers.
What is your favorite beer?
My favorite IPA. Like brand or like type of beer?
What is your favorite brand?
Oh, my favorite brand. Oof. There's this one in Berlin called First Viet. No. What's it called? Sagovka. Oh man, it's this local Russian. It's the small Russian brew that they have at the local craft beer bar. Sagovka. I can't remember the name. It's some Russian name that starts with Z.
What is your favorite spirit?
Whiskey. Easy.
Where is the best place in the world to get a burger?
New Zealand. Fergburger.
Where is the best place in the world to get sushi?
The best place to get Japan.
What place have you gone to specifically? What restaurant?
No. Okay. The best sushi I've ever had was in Trondheim in Norway. I can't remember the name, but it was incredible. Yeah.
When you play Street Fighter, what character are you?
Oh, it's not really my game. Street Fighter. Not Leo, the guy that lies down on his back and kicks people from the ground. Or
Nelson?
King. No. Oh wait, am I thinking about a different game? Oh, Street Fighter. I'm thinking of Tekken. Sorry, Street Fighter. Oh Jesus, I haven't played that in years. Ryu. Yeah.
Ryu. All right. And last question we'll go with is, who would be your dream tag team partner for you to be in Grand Beatbox battle with?
Dilo. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, right there. Got through it.
Damn. Oh, this song was hard, man. The pressure's on that.
ticking. It's just like,
Yeah.
it really gets on you.
Can get you. Next up, we have a few questions from
My friend Papuni.
Has a few questions for you.
My friend Papuni.
He has a bunch of questions for you, actually. He's got pages of stuff, and I've tried to whittle it
Jesus.
down. I've tried to whittle it down to be reasonable with you. But first of all,
My friend Papuni.
says, what's crack-a-lackin' Broton Tenkin
Oh,
to
he failed.
Senkin?
He failed so hard. So, what's crack-a-lackin', my brack-a-lackin'? What's pop-a-lockin', my brock-a-lockin'? What's crank-a-lankin', my brank-a-lankin'? That's what he's, yeah. Nice one, bro.
What he says that he goes, could you explain what that means?
Oh, God. That's just my idiosyncrasies of creating slang from slang. So in Australia, what's crack-a-lackin' is basically like, what's up? And I just took it to another level of saying like, what's up, bro? What's crack-a-lackin', my brack-a-lackin', or what's pop-a-lockin', my brock-a-lockin'? It's really silly.
I'm catching what you put down. All right.
My friend Papuni.
Wants to know what is your.
My friend Papuni.
He wants to know these things. All right. First of all, he asks you, when is your favorite time to perform as a DJ? What time in the day or night?
Probably 2 a.m. Yeah.
2 a.m.
2 or 3 a.m. Yeah. But it really depends on the country, because every country has their own kind of party time slots. Like in Berlin, you know, parties don't start kicking off till 1 or 2 in the morning. So then I would want to play at 4. You know, but in Australia, New Zealand, curfew is 2 o'clock, so you probably would want to play at 10. It really depends on the country.
My friend Papuni.
Wants to know, what is your favorite country you've performed in as a DJ?
Well, my favorite crowd was the GBB crowd, After Party 2019. That was incredible. Like me and Artifact played together, and we both were like, this is the best crowd I've ever played to. Yeah. Sure.
We'll go with
My friend Papuni.
what is one country you've not played yet as a DJ and you'd love to play?
America is definitely up there. America and Canada, both of those places. I think drum and bass is not represented well enough over there yet. And I think the kind of drum and bass, every time I've played some of the drum and bass to Americans, they're like, yo, what is this music? This is crazy. I'm like, they love dubstep. You know, the dubstep was the big hit over there, but drum and bass didn't quite hit there as hard as dubstep did. And I think they're missing out on a lot. So yeah, I think that would be up there, definitely.
Well, in the future, we'll rectify that.
Damn straight.
My friend Papuni.
He goes, we have a lot of, he says,
My friend Papuni.
says, in between you and him, we have a lot of travel time together and a few traditions we follow. One is to get good drink and good food. So what is your favorite burger chain that is across the world?
I wouldn't call it the favorite, but it's the standard go-to. It's McDonald's. Oh, no. We found a new one this year or last year. Wendy's. Mm-hmm.
All right.
We discovered Wendy's in the Philippines. We're like, whoa, this is good.
All right. Canada's got some Wendy's. Boom.
My friend Papuni.
Has a few more questions for you. He says, do you have a driver's license from New Zealand?
I did. It's expired and I lost it. So, yeah, I did at one point have a driver's license from New Zealand.
All right.
My friend Papuni.
Why did you decide to study at SAE Uni in Byron Bay?
So I'm actually born in Byron Bay. It's my hometown. And when I was in high school, I remembered there was a period of my life where I wanted to get into game design and like animation for gaming. And they were teaching that there, and they just finished building the campus. So I went and did like a tour when I was 16 or something. I did one of those, you know, when they take the students, prospective students, and they show them the campus. I did that. So then, what was that? I was 16 then. So it would have been like 22 when I decided. So 6 years later, when I was like, this is what I want to study, I was like, oh, wait, there's a uni that I did a tour of at my hometown. So I just decided to go back there. It was easy. Yeah. And also it's considered at the time, I don't know if it still is, but it was considered the best campus in the world for learning sound production and audio engineering. They had some of the best gear there that you can get your hands on as a student. So that was a big driving force as well.
It is said,
My friend Papuni
wants to know also, he says there is, okay, there you go. He said in Byron Bay specifically and at that university, The ground is special there, he says.
Holy shit, he remembers that. Yeah. So it's such a weird, oh my God, anecdote. So one of the reasons they built the campus there is it's like marshland, but underneath the marshland, when you have underneath marshland, it gets peat. So like peat gets packed down. Do you know what peat is? Like the old, yeah. Sorry. I had this conversation the other day with someone, an English speaking person, and they had no idea what peat was. So I was like, oh, maybe not everyone knows. Anyway, so it has this resonance underneath that it's so minute. It's debatable whether or not that's going to affect your productions in the studio, but it was a selling point. I remember when I was going to go study there was like this line about how they built the campus there because one of the reasons is it had this resonance underneath it. I can't believe he remembers that. That's crazy.
Well, that's why
My friend Papuni.
he's your friend as well.
My friend Papuni.
Has a few more questions for you.
Every time it gets me.
That's funny. He wants to know, he says your German roots in the Harz region. Can you explain, can you say some more about why you went back to Germany and what is special about Germany to you?
Ooh, that's a long. How long you got? So as I said, moving around a lot as a kid, I didn't really have a home. I was a nomad my whole life, so I never felt like I had somewhere that I really belonged until I met the beatbox community. The only place that was consistent growing up was every year we would visit my family in Germany, and they have this place that's been in my family for 4 or 5 generations in the Harz Mountains that my great grandfather built. A sanatorium, which is like it used to be a hospital as well, but it's not classified as a hospital anymore. It's basically a place for older people with burnout and mental health issues, but usually it's not mental health. It's more like when you've been overworked and you need to go and switch off for a month, and you're old, you need nurses and stuff. They got a swimming pool there. They've got horses for therapeutic riding and stuff. And I used to grow up going there every year. So that was kind of my anchor. It was the one place that never changed growing up. So it had that special kind of connection with it. And I also, more than anything, Berlin. The city of Berlin is just so unique. I went to school here for a year, and as a kid, it was my favorite memories of school was here. So I always wanted to come back. So it's a combination of my family and the city.
I like that.
My friend Papuni.
Still has more questions. He wants to know, that's a good question. Approximately how long does it take for the average shout out for you? How long does it take you to master the average shout out?
Secret inside knowledge. It really depends. It can be anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour if it's just a standard solo 3-minute one clip. If it's okay, yeah, he's just asking for a standard shout out. So yeah, anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, depending on the quality. If it's been distorted and has problems with it, it takes up to an hour. If it's really nicely, perfectly recorded, I can do it in 15 minutes.
I'm going to go and bug you and say, what is one of the biggest and most taxing, I'll say the word taxing, projects that you've ever had to master in the beatbox world?
That is easily the Napalm album. Yeah.
Which came out dope. Super dope.
Thank you. It was so I worked on it for over a month and had like 80% of it finished, and then I don't know what happened, the hard drive or something, it got corrupted. The entire session got corrupted. All the work I'd done, everything was gone. I had to start from scratch. And it was, oh my God, it was one of the worst experiences of my life. The good thing was because I'd done it already, I kind of knew what I needed to do. So it was a bit more streamlined the second time around. But a lot of it is physical work. So what I do in that project is I go in and I cut out every sample individually. So if you're going, every single little transient, all of that I would cut out by hand in the audio file and shift to different channels. So I would have a channel just for kicks, just for snares, just for hi-hats, and then I would process them differently and then mix them all back together to make it seamless so it was one thing. But that way I could make a snare sound like a snare and a kick sound like a kick. One of the hard things with beatboxing is we're trying to mix or master like so many different instruments, drums, bass, everything in between, vocals, trumpets, singing, everything
on one channel. It's so difficult because you can't have a universal setting that works for everything. So what I did with that was the first time I really went really hard on this technique of just chopping everything out onto separate channels. Physically doing that, going through, especially someone like Napalm, who's incredibly technical, it takes a lot. It takes like 2 hours just to chop up one recording from him to get everything seamless onto different tracks. And then you've got a 10-track album. So just to prepare the files to start mixing takes hours. It was, oh my God. Yeah, that one for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done it already, go check out Napalm's album, though. Big ups to Sinjo for helping on that, mixing it down.
Thanks.
I'm going to get you a Sir Mix-a-Lot t-shirt. Anyways.
My friend Bapuni.
Oh, that's brilliant.
All right. If no one's ever said that to you, I'm taking that as an original one.
No, that's awesome. Love it.
All right. Another question from
My friend Papuni.
He wants to know, do you think, in your opinion, in the loop station world, adding extra devices is problematic? And do you see there being a future for these extra devices to be involved? Or do you think it's better to go and keep it to one device?
So this is an interesting question. This is a very long explanation for this one, because you have to look at it like what perspective you're looking at it from. I understand the argument that for beatboxers in the scene who are loopers who want to compete, there's just so many different perspectives. Me as a musician, like purist musician, I just want to see whatever's possible. So man, chuck as many devices in there as possible to make awesome music. But at the same time, the community is evolving at a certain pace. You can't just like jumpstart that to a new area when it takes time for people to get used to the new technology and to level up. And for someone who's been using, let's say there's like someone like Inky, who's really pushing the boundaries and using these new devices. If you say, okay, everything's possible, he's going to clean up every single battle, you know? It's about doing it in a way where it's fair for everyone in a battle sense, because in a battle sense, it's a sport in that area. And in sports, there has to be rules and regulations that you can't have people on steroids. In baseball, for example, there's a reason they do that. Or
you have everybody on steroids.
Exactly. But you have to get them on steroids first. It takes a while to build up the stamina and the strength. This is a really weird analogy for this thing. But I love the possibilities of what could happen. But I also understand that it's going to take time to integrate these new technologies into the scene and make it a standardized process to be a fair environment for everyone. One of the biggest arguments came up when we introduced just one extra device, with a lot of beatboxers who are really good beatboxers, but they don't have enough money, couldn't afford those devices. So someone who rocks up with a €1,200 extra device has a big advantage in a way. But then that argument was kind of nullified when Rhythmmind won, and he wasn't using an extra device. So, I mean, on one side, it's not the technology you have, it's how you use it is a big part of it. But there is also that argument of introducing these. It's so complex. It's not a simple question at all. I'm an advocate for anything goes because I want to see what's possible. I just want to see what. But then I almost think it should be a separate category almost. So you have purist loop station battles, and then you have these anything goes producer battles. It's basically at a certain point, like I said with my track that I made with beatboxing, at a certain point I was like, why am I even bothering doing this? Why don't I just produce with electronic music? Because it's the same thing at the end. I'm just giving myself extra work. That's kind of what's happening with these extra devices. When you get to a certain level of complexity, it's a producer battle. It's not really a beatbox battle anymore. It's how well can you use these devices? Because you can make anything sound like anything with digital technology. You can morph and change anything. It's endless, the possibilities. So once you start getting really deep into these technologies and learning how to use them on a really complex level, anything's possible. So it becomes kind of a different thing at that stage. I think with one device, at the moment at least, it's still in that realm of a beatbox battle with a little bit of extra flavor involved. But when you start getting into these new ones, like this Mod Duo X is this new thing. It's actually, the headquarters are not far from my house. It's just down the road. I haven't had a chance to talk to them. I've checked it out, and it's basically a production door. It's what I would want to use in a loop station battle, but it's so advanced that it's kind of removing that element of beatbox a little bit. it's a really complex issue that needs a lot of different beatboxers from different parts of the world sitting down and discussing how we would do this. It's something that we always do when we make decisions like this at GBB. We generally try to reach out to as many of the pros and get their opinions and have a panel and discuss things rather than just going, okay, we're going to do this, because we understand GBB is a platform for everyone. It's not just our thing. So we have to try and keep in touch with what people want. And it's so complex because there's just so many variables, people from different parts of the world, different cultures, different backgrounds, different monetary situations. It's a lot.
So maybe.
So,
No,
maybe,
I'm just screwing with you.
No, definitely. Like me personally, for sure. As I said, it just needs to be discussed. I can't give an answer whether or not it's going to happen. I would love to see it happen. But then I would also think it should be a different category. But when I say that, then I'm thinking like, dude, do you know how hard it is to organize the GBB? It's so much work. So then just the thought of a new category on top of all the other categories, that's how my mind's thinking, like, oh God, that's another day of work. And like, no, God, it's, the logistics of it. It's not just a simple thing like, yeah, let's have more devices. Because then I'm like, wait. It's a process, and we have to sit down and really talk about it.
I think that would be interesting to see if there was a all-out no restrictions on said pieces of devices and technology that you can use, and see how far you can do with live producing using beatbox as the base or some such. There'd be some term of that, but very interesting to see.
Can I just jump in? So I just noticed Frosty is in the chat, and he's actually a big part of some of the reasons I have some of these answers, because he's been doing a lot of research. And he said, I think if you use one extra device, then allow all, because some devices have so many possibilities, that we just be musicians. So that's one of the reasons we don't allow all devices, is because there are some that will take it to a different thing completely. So I think if we did allow all devices, then it would be a separate battle than a purist loop station battle. So again, it comes back to that argument of like, what do you think a battle is? Is this about who makes the better music, or is this about who can use this device to make their beatbox make music the best? You know, it's two different perspectives, two ways of looking at it.
I agree.
So, yeah,
big shout out to Frosty though.
Shout out to Frosty, man.
My friend Papuni.
He wrote a very long version of this question, but I'm going to try to break it into a smaller one. So with the way the world is going, and you had this experience at the Florida Beatbox Battle, and I believe Spain came into this as well when they had their Spanish championships live this version. There's always been a thing to say that one microphone between two competitors makes it for the most level and equal playing field in theory, because said microphone, every single microphone for some reason is different. Can you explain to the audience, and listeners, people are listening, and myself too, because you're the head guy for this, all right? In your opinion, why, first of all, is there a difference if you use two of the same exact microphone model going on the same quote-unquote EQ line? Is there a difference, first of all? And if there is, why does that occur? And secondarily, moving forward into the new world of there, in my opinion, is going to be a need to go and make sure that there's separation in microphones and not using the same thing. How does one move forward like this to keep things equal? And how does one keep this clean? How does one keep a microphone clean during battles?
So this pandemic has changed everything, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Beatbox battles. Oh God. So before I go into this answer, I have to first explain the difference between condenser and dynamic microphones. So the majority of stage microphones that we use are dynamic microphones. It's just description. I'm not going to get into the text of it, but it's just a description of how the membrane picks up the sound when you're recording it. Dynamic microphones change. You can have two of the same exact models, and they will sound different. Just because of the way the membrane wears over time or is made slightly different in the factory, there will be differences. A condenser microphone is identical. If you have two of the same model, they make them in the same factory, they will sound identical, no matter how much time goes by. It's really complex. I can't explain it directly why now, but That's just the way it is. I actually learned this very recently. I didn't know this myself until Bo from DPA Microphones came and did this workshop with us in SBX camp. He was a co-lecturer with me for the engineering course. And before we did it, we had to sit down together and we're talking about stuff. And he explained that to me. I was like, I didn't know this. It's like, oh shit, okay. So if you have a condenser microphone with the same model, like the DPA 2028 or any other, there's a whole bunch of different ones that from AKG and Shure, they all have stage condenser mics. If you have the same model of that, they will sound identical. We've tested it many times with the different ones that I've had. When you have two of the same model as dynamic, it doesn't work that way. So when you're using dynamic microphones, yes, it makes sense to use one microphone. And that's why it's always been that way, because before we started teaming up with DPA, we'd always used dynamics. And you can hear it. There is a clear difference between two of the same models. So that always made sense when we were using dynamic. Now with condenser, it's perfect timing that we switched to DPA just before the pandemic, because it allowed us to do battles like the Florida battle with two different mics, but identical settings. And because this is something beatboxers are very paranoid about when you're in a battle, you want to have the same settings as your opponent, because it can be a disaster if you don't. It could be the difference between you winning or losing. And I totally get that. The thing is that because everyone's so used to using dynamic microphones, there's this ingrained fear of like, if I'm not using the same mic, it's going to sound different. And I had to go through with each beatbox and I was like, guys, look, I'm going to let you test it yourself here. Take both mics, do a kick through each one. It's like identical. I'm like, yeah, next guy, do the same. It's just a learning process. So once people get used to using the condenser mics, there won't be that fear as much anymore. But they are expensive. So if you don't have access to a condenser mic, it is better to use one dynamic mic for a solo battle to keep it fair for both of them. That's going to be an issue. Cleaning mics, one of the things you can do is, I'm not sure how it's going to sound for you if I do this, but can you hear that?
Oh, we can hear that.
So you can switch these out. That's what we've been doing. So we'll have two mics on stage, and we bought a whole bunch of these grills, and we clean them. And what we did with the Florida is each beatboxer had their own one. So we would swap them out between each round. So we only had two mics on stage so that they didn't have to share the mic. But then we also swapped out the grills so that the next beatboxer didn't have to use someone else's because of the current situation. That's something you could do with a. I'm not sure how that would work with dynamic mics, because a lot of the dynamic mics I've seen, those grills are like permanently attached. But it just depends on the model and what you can do with it.
And in just your opinion, switching out grills, if every competitor had a grill given to them for XYZ battle, let's say, and it's a head-to-head top 16, and obviously before they'd have two of the same microphone, switching out grills as you go up the ladder, right? In your opinion, do you think that's enough to keep it sanitized and switching back and forth? Because
you would have. Sorry.
No, I just mean in past, I've been around since a long time now, and there's always been coming back from beatbox. Hey now, coming at you live and direct, ladies and gentlemen. Hey. But back in my day, no. Basically,
we used our own microphones, man.
Yeah, we didn't even have microphones. No, but if we have the same microphones, just yelling at each other across the street. But if you had the same microphone back in the day, you basically, if someone went there and was sick, everyone's going home and they're going to be sick because he's the same microphone.
Oh,
it is 100% truthfully happened multiple different events.
Now moving forward, every beatbox event, every single one, every single time, and I wasn't even on stage.
I was going to say though, do you think that that's sanitary enough, switching out heads in the future, that would be able to make people feel comfortable moving forward?
So are we talking pre, during, or post-pandemic? The pandemic's over? We've all been vaccinated and we're fine now? Or what's the scenario here?
Let's go. Well, let's get an answer for post and during.
Okay, so during, we trialed this at Florida. It was a nightmare, but it worked. You have to disinfect the handle. So you have a disinfectant spray and wipes. You don't spray the microphone, you spray the wipes and then do the handle and swap out the grills. Theoretically, that should be enough. I'm not a virologist, so I'm not necessarily the right person to be asking here. We tried it. It seemed to work. No one got sick. I don't think anyone got COVID at Florida. So it seemed to work. It's
it's a really difficult one. In other areas of music, it's so simple. Just bring your own mic. But this is such a unique art form that it's going to be something we're going to have to look into more and more. We have to do some proper tests. I can't give any significant answer because, as I said, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a virologist. I didn't do the numbers or do the swabs. We did a pretty good job. It took a lot of extra work, but it was worth it, I think, because we got to do a battle during the pandemic. And I mean, most of the time people were abiding by the rules. Sometimes people get a bit hectic and overhyped on stage, but generally it was all pretty good. And the guys who worked there did an incredible job of making sure that it was all the rules were followed. Like we had 2 engineers on stage whose job it was to take the mics away, wipe them, disinfect them, switch out the grills. The people weren't doing it themselves, so the artists weren't switching the grills themselves. It was done very methodically by 2 engineers. So if you have a scenario like that, I think that's the best. Like you could probably do more, I guess, but as far as I can see, that's the furthest you can go. If that's not enough, I don't know what to do, man. Like
True.
this,
Thus far, in your opinion, we'll leave it because yes, you were not a doctor. You didn't do the 8 to 100 years of schooling for that and training. But let's say in general, that is a fair assessment, I think, of how to possibly move forward in the best of our abilities currently.
My friend Papuni.
Papuni.
Can I say? One thing I can say is, or I just saw someone else put a comment in there. That's actually a really good point. Or everyone just has their own mic, but it's the same mic. So it's something that we've looked at doing with DPA or with some of our sponsors, is to try and source enough microphones so that everyone has one. The problem is, okay, at a battle where it's top 8 and that's it, sure, eight mics, that's doable. But if you're talking about GBB where there's 50 artists, you got 50 mics of the same mic, it's a lot.
Couple dollars.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Couple dollars. Another option. Let's go with one more thing here.
Oh yeah, River.
Sorry, but mate, River is correct. Shout out to TNEB for putting so much work into the Florida battle.
Every single time.
Before. Yeah, but especially this time, like he had to go through so much to follow regulations, the law, make sure no one got sick. It was huge undertaking, and he killed it. So big ups to TNEB and big ups to River. Oh God, I hate that. No, it's great. Big ups to River for winning that battle, by the way. That was awesome.
Big ups to TNEB. Big ups to River. Big ups to everybody in France that's killing it as per usual. Love the boys. So
my friend Papuni.
For the 3rd time, he's trying to get this out of his mouth through me.
Oh God.
Let's go with this. He wants you to know this is less of a question and more of just a statement. He usually does this at the end with people. Now he's getting more comfortable with this. He goes, overall, Aaron is a huge part of why. Overall, Aaron is responsible, a huge part of the responsibility of why Swissbeatbox is where it is today. He is important that you have joined the Swissbeatbox team, and he says you're very important to
my friend Papuni.
He wants you to know that. He said over the years, you guys have developed a dynamic to work together, and he feels like it's one of the strongest ones he's ever made. The impact overall on him as a person has made him a better person, and he wants you to know that.
My friend Papuni.
Wow.
Continues on this statement. He says, you have a good heart, and he really wants you to achieve all your goals and ambitions that you have, and he considers you one of his truest friends.
My friend Papuni.
Continues going. He says to you, he hopes that there's many years ahead, and once this COVID stuff's all wrapped up, you guys get to go do some crazy traveling together, possibly where we invite Scott Jackson, being me, together, and we can go and have some meals, possibly at Bob Evans.
Bob Evans
Continues to go. He goes, there's a lot of fun to be had. He wishes you the best in 2021. And overall, I believe the last one was, he wants more people like Sinjo and myself in the scene. So Papuni basically loves you.
My friend Papuni
Wants you to know that.
That was really heartwarming. Thank you, bro. Both you and Papuni, you being the messenger and also my bro. But yeah, that means a lot to me. We've been through so much together through the years. It's been over 6 years of working professionally together and being really good friends as well. I think something happened to your camera. You got all blurry there. Maybe that's just my Skype. I don't know. It looks like it's unfocused. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what to say. That's incredible wording from him. It means a lot to me. It's been a long journey together, definitely. We've been through a lot together. Traveling together it's one of my favorite things, is traveling and seeing all the bros, all the family. But of everyone in the scene, he's the one I've done the most with, because we've done so much work together, and it really creates like a bond when you're going through airport security together over and over again. No, that means a lot to me. He knows how much he means to me. We can sometimes lose sight of it, because working together, it's a very difficult thing to balance a working relationship with someone who's such a good friend as well. It's one of the biggest challenges I think I've ever had to go through. Not just with him, just with anyone. If you're friends with someone, I mean, the same thing with me and Marcel Artifact. It was very difficult to go through that. Like, we went through a phase where it nearly ruined our friendship. We're fine now, really good friends again. But it was a period where, because of the work, it put so much strain on the friendship. So it's a really hard thing to balance. And I think anyone who's tried to work professionally with a friend knows that it can really be a difficult thing, and you have to work through it together. And only certain people can do it in the long run. You have to figure out where to put boundaries together. But yeah, I love the guy, and it's been such a long journey together. So yeah, thanks for those words. I don't know, I'm getting sidetracked now again. That's beautiful.
Well, he wants you to know. These are questions from our lovely audience. People have been watching this whole time. Big shouts to Frosty, Firebraz, River. I'm sure there's other people out there that I've missed so far, but big shouts to everybody watching.
Yes.
The big homie Ilya, aka Heidfeld, decided to go and walk through, find some of the best questions that were asked. Supernova. Oh, big shouts to Supernova. He wants to ask you about possibly borrowing and not giving back someone's beer in Belgium. What does that mean to you?
Oh my God.
That's less of a question, more of an accusation. We'll move on. What else do we got?
I don't know if he wants me to go into that story, because I think he sees it a very different way than I see it. But I was a little bit of an asshole at one point. This was back in the early days. First time to Belgium, I arrived at 10 in the morning, and I love beer, you know that. And Belgium is one of the best beers in the world. So first thing I did at 10 in the morning, got off the plane. I hadn't really slept. I slept like 2 hours maybe. And I go to one of the local kiosks and I buy a 10% beer, 10% strength. And I just started hammering them all day long. I think I blacked out at 5 p.m. So somewhere in between there, something happened and I was a bit of an asshole. I'm sorry for that, Supernova. I just saw things in the moment from my perspective, and I wasn't looking at the bigger picture. And I was like, yeah, I do deserve this beer. And then I opened a beer I wasn't supposed to open. And literally 5 minutes later, Supernova came with a beer specifically for me so that I didn't drink those other ones. And so that was young Sinjo being a bit of a cunt.
Hey, jeez. All right.
Pardon my French.
Yeah. Really weird translation coming in.
I'm from New Zealand. It's like a term of endearment there.
100%.
I can get away with it.
I cannot.
I've met people in America who would hear that word from someone else and be like devastated. And then with my accent, I would say they're like, oh, it's fine. He's foreign. He doesn't know better.
All right. Another question from the audience. What is your favorite? Let's go a little more PG. He goes, what the question was, what's your favorite cuisines from around the world that you've tried? What's your favorite cuisines that you've had?
I think all-time number one is probably Japanese. Close second is Vietnamese. And I love me a burger. Burger is just like the staple. But yeah.
Now, This is a question that I usually ask in the rapid fire question, but I'll give you some more time on this one because they asked it already. I saw this question come up, so I didn't ask you in the rapid fire. Anyways, audience wants to know, what is the best Australian dinner?
Oh God, best Australian dinner.
Or top cuisine in Australia. Let's go with just top food item from Australia.
Fish and chips and a meat pie.
All right, then a little more exciting, possibly. What's the best German dish?
Again, fucking.
Really?
Yeah, German cuisine is. It's usually, I don't know. I'm not a biggest fan. Like all the good stuff is usually from somewhere like Austrian. Austrian cuisine is great, like schnitzels and stuff. Sorry, getting sidetracked. I guess a bratwurst. Yeah, like it's a sausage. It's a type of sausage.
Yeah.
But I've had better sausages as well, so I don't know. It's the wrong countries.
Fair enough. So I already asked that. Someone's just extending on the question of, are you going to put up these? A lot of people actually ask this. They're happy that you're going to be putting. This is more of a statement from the audience. They're very happy that you're going to be putting out tutorials on how to properly record at home and giving advice in studio sessions. So they're very excited about that.
We didn't really talk about that, but that's we did the Sinjo reviews stuff. But there's the tutorials and stuff is actually something that we didn't. I don't know if we talked about that in depth on this one that much, but we are really looking at doing some tutorial series through Swissbeatbox. Besides the stuff that I'm going to be doing on my YouTube channel, my YouTube channel stuff might not be that focused on training. It's more going to be me, just my personality. I want to try and just get out there with stuff and produce some stuff just using my way of expressing things. It's not necessarily going to be informative in that sense of educational, but the stuff we do with Swissbeatbox definitely will be. So we have some stuff lined up that we want to produce around we're going to start off with doing how to record a shout out. So how to get the best settings at home so you can record the best quality shout out. Not just, for Swissbeatbox, first off, we want to do that because we get so many sent to us that are unusable and we have to go back and forth with the artist. But then eventually also that stuff that you can apply to your own recordings and productions for yourself, for your own YouTube channels, then getting into basics of mixing and mastering. We're also going to be releasing some educational content further down the line, but we're going to talk about that another time when it's a bit more complete. But there is definitely that stuff happening.
Sure. Somewhat like the MB14 line of how to use the loop station tutorials you did?
Yeah, stuff like that, but more audio based. Exactly.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Keep a lookout in 2021. Another question, Vokoda asks, big shouts to Vokoda. He asks, have you ever tried using live EQ for your beatbox mixes, like with 505 effects so that your drums come out as samples right off? Or would you always recommend recording raw and doing post EQ? We kind of answered this already, but
yeah, we did. I get what he's saying. A lot of people do this, and it's a problem I have when like a lot of younger beatboxers who don't have an audio interface, but they have a loop station. They'll use their loop station as their audio interface to record a shout out for us. But they have settings that they use that makes them sound good in their headphones. But that's their headphones with their untrained ears with their settings. Look, if you know what you're doing, if you really know what you're doing and it sounds good, you can do it that way. I personally prefer always to have a clean version because then you can repurpose it later for whatever you want and remix and remaster it, whatever. Once you've done, and also if it was something like, if you're in a professional high quality studio and they have rack gear, like, compressors that cost like 20,000 euros, which exist. If they have that gear there that you're never going to touch again, for sure. I've done that before where I'm doing recording sessions in studios like at GVB. We use Rebel Studios and they had some amazing outboard gear. I would take advantage of that because I'm never going to touch those again. But if it's your RC505, plugins on your computer are probably going to do as good or a better job. And in that scenario, I would go with a clean recording.
Last question from our audience. They wanted to go and just say, what do you prefer? I'm not sure, because I've never really used these two programs, but Ableton or Fruity Loops?
Oh, Ableton for sure.
I kind of thought that because you said you were using it already today, but I was just like, they asked, I'll ask.
I will say that the whole DAW debate of like, Fruity Loops, Logic, Pro Tools, Ableton, Cubase, Reason, all these different softwares, Again, it's the same thing with headphones. If you can use it and it works for you, that's fine. They all are essentially doing the same thing, just in different ways. The debate on whose is better is really down to a workflow thing. I will say there is some truth to the fact that some of them have better algorithms so that the sound quality is better on some of them. But if you know what you're doing and know how to use plugins, you can make it sound better again yourself. So I used to use Logic for a long time, and then I switched back to Ableton. I did always believe Logic had a better output sound, like the algorithms just sounded better. The new updated Ableton caught up a big way with that. So I think that debate has gone out the window now. Now it's just down to workflow for me. And when you're making music and working on a computer for long hours, workflow is probably the most important thing. How fast you can work and finish your tracks. So find the one that works for you, that you feel comfortable with, and stick with that. That's really the most important thing. But for me, definitely Ableton's the best. Everything else sucks. I'm kidding.
You heard it here. Those are questions from our audience, people that have been tuned in watching. So once again, thank you for everybody tuning in. My question now is, do you want to pick up that microphone and show them some beatboxing, man? Because I know it's not all EQ'd out and in your home studio and stereo studio that you have, but I'm sure the people would love to hear you drop some beats, because I know I would.
Oh, it's been a while. Let me get them.
Excuse me.
You're gonna hold on. So this is the gain setting. Turn it down, I think, to 0.
Live EQ session.
Does it sound all right?
Sounding good. Ladies and gentlemen, right here live, Head of Audio, gonna show you why he got into the scene right here. Jumping in, we got my main man. We got Sinjo. I say the 3, y'all say the 2 and the 1. You already know what to do. After he takes a drink of water, because drinking water is important. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Sinjo. Once again, I say the 3, y'all say the 2 and the 1. Let's hear that beatbox. And in 3.
I really haven't practiced in a while.
Coming at it.
Oh, God.
Right there, ladies and gentlemen.
I hate being put on the spot.
Well, I love putting people on the spot. So.
Only for you, man. Only for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, right here, episode 36, Beyond the Beats. It's your boy Scott Jackson. We were live with Mr. Sinjo. Thank you for tuning in. Before we jump on out here, first of all, thank you for jumping on, brother. I miss you, for real. I cannot wait to see you again. And I need my partner back to go and hang, man. It's been hard, rough out on these streets, you know.
Dude,
so
I miss you so much. I miss everyone so much. This has been a really interesting year, for sure. Everyone keeps saying, bring on 2021, dude. The 1st of January. It's not like some magic switch goes off and everything changes. Like, our perception of time passing is so man-made, and we forget that it's still the same. So I don't know. On one side, I'm like, yeah, 2021. On the other side, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to the vaccine.
yeah, we'll see again. I'm you and I are both not doctors, so I'm just encouraging people to
listen to the doctors, man.
Listen to the doctor.
Listen to the doctors, man.
That's I'm gonna leave it like that, and this isn't based up for arguments, because if you trust Sinjo on sound, you trust your doctor on what to do. But aside from that, brother, I want to go and say too, you'll be starting up a YouTube channel, you said, this year. Where can people currently go to support you, look at your music, and get into the world of Sinjo / your producing? What else where can I know on Instagram it's Sinjo _SBX.
That's the spot right now. Everything that I'm gonna be doing, I'm gonna be promoting there. So not everything's quite ready yet. Sorry, I can't let this one go. K the Goat FN. Ain't that good? He didn't practice. Yeah, I know. That's why I don't like doing this.
It's beef.
he's completely right. So shout out for the truth, man. Always be honest. Go to my Instagram, follow me there, please. I'm almost at 10K, so I can do the swipe up thing soon. Yay!
Oh, hey now.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna be promoting everything I will be doing on there when I get around to finally finishing it all. Got a whole bunch of production stuff lined up, new tracks, new ideas. I'm excited to get it all underway. I was living in my studio for a good part of 10 months of this year. I've just moved into my new apartment. Berlin housing situation, finding a new apartment here is a nightmare, and my studio is quite nice, so I wasn't like I was on the street, but I was staying there for a while. So now I'm here. I'm setting up my studio. Once it's all kind of ready to go, then I can start doing a whole bunch of stuff again. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, go and follow him up. Check him out. Let's get him to 10K to start with, and beyond that for years to come, and more stuff coming. But I can't wait to go and see you putting out some music. Let yourself artistically express yourself. I can't wait to go and see your tutorials that are going to be put out, because that'll help not only myself but other people around the world. Actually, when they go to get an SBX shout out, be easier for you on your end and actually put out good quality. Cool. And it's been overall 100%. I agree with Paponi that without your influence in the scene and having that ear of pushing it forward, the production level of stuff wouldn't be the same. And with a higher production level, with that increasing, the general public takes us serious, and I appreciate that.
Wow, that means a lot to me. Thank you, man. I actually wanted to say one thing. I forgot this before. I got a special request from Freddie Beats, because we had a call before this about the wildcards for the kickback. Judging, and I agree with him. So I know this is a really big tangent right at the end. It doesn't really make sense, but it's something I really wanted to mention earlier on, and I forgot to.
Just get it.
More bass does not always mean better. Please. A lot of you guys are sending in wildcards that you've just kind of either recorded it without a microphone direct or with a microphone direct, but then just thought, I want to sound more bassy. So you just boost the bass. It actually, the way that frequencies work, it compromises all the other frequencies. A bass takes up more energy from a speaker than high end. So you put too much bass in there, the speaker can't reproduce the high end stuff properly. So it sounds really bad. So just please, guys, don't always boost the bass. You don't need to. It's unnecessary. Sometimes it's good, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's a good note to leave it on.
Coming at you loud and direct, ladies and gentlemen. Get out of here with all that bass if you need to. Sometimes it's good. Oh, jeez. I miss you, doggy. Straight up.
I miss you too, bro. This is great. Thanks so much for having me. This has been awesome. And I want to say, big shout out to you. Fucking amazing podcast host. I mean, of course, you are the host, but bro, you've been killing it with these podcasts. So big ups. I'm actually going to be one of my big things. I want to start as a podcast on my channel. So I hope I have you as a guest at one point.
Oh, bring me on. Maybe we'll get a little more loose on that one.
Mine's going to be a little bit more freestyle. That's why I need my own platform, because I think this Swissbeatbox is amazing. I want to keep it professional though, and I'm going to get a bit more crazy on my channel. So come join us over there when it's ready.
When it's ready, guys, go and check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been episode 36. We still here. First episode of 2021. More to come. Make sure you check back every single week. Go and shout out and support the homie Sinjo. He's the one that makes everything sound so crispy and nice in those headphones and monitors around the world and TV screens when you're watching that stuff back. So go and support this man in his journeys when he goes and puts out the new channel, as he puts out new music, as he puts out tutorials telling you how to sound good as well. Overall, when you see him too, buy that man a beer. Aside from that, man, we out here. 2021, episode number 1 in 2021. But we're on to episode number 36. Be back next week. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go and say thank you for tuning in. Scott Jackson. I'm going to